WNYathletics.com would like to thank today's sponsors. Howard Hanna Real Estate Services. Ready to sell your home? Visit howardhanna.com today. Howard Hanna. Home happens here. Western New York Immediate Care, with 4 convenient locations in the Buffalo area: Amherst, Buffalo, Depew, Lancaster, and Orchard Park. Western New York Immediate Care is now offering telemedicine services to provide you care anytime, anywhere. Visit WNY Immediate Care on-site or virtually at WNYimmediatecare.com. Logistics Plus Buffalo is your go-to resource for all your transportation needs. LP moves freight of all shapes and sizes all across the world. Call LP Buffalo today at 716-877-9653 or email buffalo@logisticsplus.com. AdPro Sports. AdPro is the largest team sports dealers and brand merchandise providers in the nation. For a variety of custom merchandise solutions, from apparel to promotional items, visit adprosports.com. Empire Electric. For all your home, business, or office electrical needs, call Empire Electric at 716-634-0330. Free estimates and financing available for all customers. Empire Electric. Call 716-634-0330.
All right, welcome into the Friday Night Final Drive. I'm Francis Beck, joined this week by the Professor, Joe Kraus, and it's going to be certainly a fun weekend of a fun week of high school football. We've already seen the dramatics. The games have barely started.
Yeah, that's right, Francis. First off, thanks for having me. Welcome to the Friday Night Final Drive here at West York Athletics. And just to start off, Francis, this is our first time together. Now, you've produced some games that I've worked, but this is our first time together, folks, that we are on air in 1,091 days. You got to go back to October 19th of 2019. Kenmore East defeated Kenmore West in a big opener. You and I were on the call back on the Mixler days for this a WNY venture, but I'm excited to be back with you tonight. And yeah, you said we have 8 games on our Octobox, but some big news coming out of the city of Buffalo earlier today. And it's interesting how this sorted out just around lunchtime, and here we are.
Yeah, so it actually came out earlier than lunchtime. That the Section 6 has did discover that Bennett had an ineligible player on their roster this season. So they were forced to forfeit all of their games that have happened, their first 5 games? 6 games. Yeah, because we're in week 7. So they had to forfeit all of their their first 6 games because of that. So that means that each of their AA opponents that they've already played, including Lancaster and Bennett, are credited with wins in those games. Those teams are taking on now that game becomes the battle for first. Bennett, luckily for them, the schedule kind of worked out. Weird blessing in disguise. They have Niagara Falls tonight. They have Hutch Tech next week. So if they win both of those games, they can get in as the 3rd seed, and they would take on the loser of this Lancaster Orchard Park game in a road game in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely a lot to comprehend. Coming out earlier today with Bennett, and head coach Steve McDuffie was also in a later update from Jonah Bronstein, our friend at News 4, that Coach McDuffie has been suspended to coach the Tigers in the Niagara Falls game. So former St. Joe's coach Bob O'Connor takes over in the head coaching spot. But again, as Francis just said, Bennett having to forfeit their first 6 games. They were 4-2 to start this season, 2-0 in Class AA play, and now 0-6 and 0-2 in AA. Overall, 4 of the 5 Class AA teams will be going into the postseason. The semis will be in, I believe, 2 weeks from now, or at the end of the season, and then there isn't a week 9. But with the postseason around the corner, obviously the big question for me, obviously Lancaster Orchard Park right now, but I imagine if maybe you're a player, Francis, for Lancaster tonight, you have to kind of be like, man, I wish we were so close to defeating Bennett last week. You got to wonder how the schedule would have shuffled out.
Yeah, it just thing. It's just how everything worked out. And if you're Bennett or anyone else, you just got to move forward and win the games in front of you. And who knows? Maybe they can be I don't know if this would actually what the records are. They could be the first 6-win team to win a state title. So who knows if that happens? But I think we should go to the Octobox. We already have a lot going on.
One right in the breadbasket.
Let me get rid of that audio there. So we have our 8 games. Joe, why don't you walk us through the first 4 games, what our updates are so far?
Yeah, so if you look on the very top 4, Francis, we have Iroquois and West Seneca East right now. No score in the second quarter. Colin Wood and Jim Craig of the Collie Cup are on the call. That is the one buffering right now in the top left. Then next week, Niagara Wheatfield and Jamestown scoreless in the first quarter. Jake Fyack and Tim Chief on the call for our crew tonight. Game 3, we have South Park leading Williamsville South at the moment in the first quarter, leading 6-0, a 6-0 Sparks lead. And then Sweet Home on the road against West Seneca West, the Indians with a 7-0 lead in the second quarter in this one. So those are the first 4 of the top row of the Octobox tonight.
All right, I want to head real quick to Game 1 where it looks like we had a touchdown. Let's bring in Colin Wood and Jim Craig.
22nd rushing touchdown of the year. 23rd total. He's got 1 receiving touchdown as well.
Putting up video game-like numbers. 2 here. Stoppage on the play.
So it looks like Iroquois just scored a touchdown on that play.
So Chiefs looking to tie it up here on the 2-point conversion early on.
2-point conversion coming
Flights
up.
give to Barry once again, who is
Iroquois
in for the 2-point
He's
conversion.
It
was close,
at 8
but
now.
His momentum carried him.
Just under 5 minutes left in the first half. Iroquois with that offensive firepower with Justice Kleitz leading the way at quarterback. So tied up out at 8 out at West Side East. A great campus out for the Trojans fans out there.
Yeah, you saw West Seneca East. I'm a little surprised. They're putting up a big fight. This is kind of a rivalry, but remember, West Seneca East lost 28-0 to a Pioneer team, which also lost by 20 points to Iroquois. So right now, West Seneca East is putting up a good fight, and they're right now giving a little gut punch to an Iroquois team, which hasn't been tested all year long. So we'll see how long the Trojans can keep this up and maybe pull out the victory in this one. Iroquois with a win can clinch the number 1 seed. Iroquois, I think they can still would get the first seed even if they lose this one, depending on how tiebreakers look out. But I know Pioneer would much rather get a win tonight and just clinch it out right now. Don't have to worry about the math.
And they definitely have some firepower for West Seneca East. Charlie Rosado, he had the opening score for the Trojans back in the first quarter. But you said, I think that if you're Iroquois, West Seneca East, it's going to go down to the wire with those 2 teams.
All right, I do have a scoring update from Twitter. Our Greg Larson is at the Fredonia game, and I'm trying to see who they're facing.
I believe they're facing Chautauqua Lake this evening.
But first, let's go to Game 2, as it looks like we have a touchdown for the Falcons. Let's jump in with Jake Fyack and Tim Chifa. Oh, it looks like they're having trouble with their audio. So it looks like Niagara Wheatfield just scored. We'll go to Game 3, though, where it looks like we do have Stu and Paul Catrona.
Giovanni Pagan, I believe, on the catch. And once again, South Park will go for 2. See what Willoughby does here. Willoughby, he's going to throw it. He throws to the far side. Incomplete, no good, and it is 12-0. So South Park has 2 touchdowns and 2 missed 2-point conversions. We'll take a quick break. 5 minutes exactly to go in the half. 12-0.
So South Park leading over Williamsville South, 12-0 after the last score. And Niagara Wheatfield with a 6-0 lead over Jamestown as well. Falcons just getting the early score. I had a chance to talk with Eric O'Brien a few weeks ago to talk about their quarterback, Alex Fletcher, and how he has transferred his basketball skills to leading at quarterback. He's making a lot of big strides in his senior campaign for the Falcons. But the Falcons, as we mentioned, 6-0 over Jamestown. Trey Drake on the opposite side for the Red Raiders. And it looks like we have some other action as well. We mentioned South Park leading Williamsville South 12-0 now at the moment, late in the second quarter.
And this is the Orchard Park with Lancaster game, and it looks like Orchard Park just scored because they're lining up for a field goal. We can't see their scoreboard. We do know our Tom Prince is there, and he'll be sure to send us an update in a second. I'll actually text him to make sure we get that update. But that's the I don't know if we want to say game of the night, but pretty close now, especially with the news with Bennett.
Absolutely. Orchard Park and Lancaster going down to the wire. Looks like the winner will get the number 1 seed in Class AA. We mentioned it is only a 4-team postseason that will be coming up later this month. But Orchard Park, Lancaster, 2 traditional programs. You go all the way back for Orchard Park when Gene Tundo was a longtime coach for the Quakers. A lot of great players. Kyle Hoppy, Jeff Tundo in the backfield, Brendan Nessel on the defensive side. And for Lancaster, as we said, for in many recent years, Francis, they've been the top dog in Class AA, having all that success in the postseason. But you said that could be the game of the night. Orchard Park and Lancaster, it's looking good so far.
Meanwhile, as you can see, Williamsville East is out to waiting for the extra point. No good. So 20-0 lead for the Flames over Hutchcock. This is a non-league battle, but a Will East team that hasn't hasn't won it all yet. This has lost the last two big games to Kenmore West, and then I'm drawing a blank here. I know Nick. They lost two pretty. West Seneca West was the last game. So this Willie's team desperately needs a win, and they need a lot of help in order to get really back in the playoff race.
And to keep in mind for the Flames in that West Seneca West game late in the third quarter, the starting quarterback for Williamsville, Sean Sansone, he is done for the rest of the season. He had a separated shoulder. It's still in the top 10 for categories in touchdown passes and passing yardage, which is just great to see. But it looks like Calvin Kulik, I spoke with Mike Trillo, the head coach, last week, this past Monday. He said Calvin Kulik will be taking over at quarterback for the rest of the season. So the Flames are looking good. And Wheatfield and Jamestown going in on the action near the goal line. And Jamestown knocking on the door, and they are on the scoreboard now. So Jamestown, that firepower, Francis, with Trey Drake starting to get things going against Wheatfield.
Yeah, I think Jamestown's not really used to getting punched in the mouth. The one game they were punched in the mouth was Bill North, and we all know that was a 1-point game. But it looked good to see this Jamestown offense to respond, and it looks like they're just going to go for the extra point in this one and keep it a one-score game.
Exactly what they do. So 8-7, Niagara Wheatfield against Jamestown. 2:41 left in the first quarter. Jake Fogg, Tim Chifa on the call for those interested in that game.
Oh, that'll be on tape delay later.
Yes.
Backyard football.
It looks like we had another touchdown for
23-yard
Iroquois,
touchdown.
so they now lead 14-8 in this
It
one.
was a
So
very
it
peculiar.
looks like they're getting ready
very
for
peculiar
kickoff
play.
there. I'm just seeing right now
One-
it was
one-
a.
it was-
Let me pause this audio. Nate Blair scored on a 23-yard touchdown from Justice Kleitz. Chiefs missed the 2-point conversion, so that's what created that 14-8 lead right now for the Iroquois Chiefs. So we'll head back to our Octo box. So we see a lot of stuff going on right now. I just found out Clarence is getting the ball after they blocked a punt down 13-0, 2:40 left in the second quarter of that one. So we'll keep an eye on that game. Nick, do we have any games in the red zone right now?
Game 4 is kind of getting close.
Okay, we'll head over to. Looks like there's a timeout in Game 4, so we'll hold off on that one. I have an update from Orchard Park. It is 14-7 Lancaster. Tom Prince says Dylan Evans has made 2 unbelievable catches of the already in this game.
And Dylan Evans, earlier this season, I believe, he set the record for most touchdowns for a wide receiver for Section 6, if I'm not mistaken. Him and Ben Gochella at quarterback for the Quakers. So pretty good so far for OP tonight against Lancaster. And just one note, we talked about Clarence just a moment ago. Dylan Reifenberg, we'll talk about him a little bit later on, hopefully. But Dylan Reifenberg, coming from a family tradition of knowing how to play football the right way, being a true team player. And as we said, they're trailing Will North right now by 2 scores. But, Clarence has a lot of firepower on the offensive side of the ball, a lot of veterans, 24 seniors for head coach Paul Bergio.
Yeah, very good team, and they're looking to get right in the thick. This is an important game right here. Probably is going to determine who gets second in the Class A1 division, but I want to jump over to A3, where it appears the Billies are looking to get their first score of the game. Let's jump in with Paul and Stu.
Other than a great defensive effort, that was a touchdown. Now they're on about the 1.
They spotted that one at the 2.
2-yard line.
Yep, first and goal from the 2.
So what do we have? 2 yards to get back into this game.
And look at the whole South team kind of huddled around the coaches calling the plays there. First and goal. Overcamp. He looks to throw. He got away from one man, but he's not going to get away from the second, third, and fourth. And hopefully, the ball came out, I believe. And it looks like it will stay with South. Well, Overcamp, whatever he wanted to do, he had no time to do it because the sparks are right there. And it was a fumble. And fortunately for South, the ball will stay with them. Overcamp kind of paid the price for that one, Paul. He took I'm not sure if it was a run or a pass, but he took a step forward and he got whacked.
Well, sometimes it's just a little smarter just to drop. Overcamp at 195, met Mr. Bellamy at 390.
Julian Bellamy. And there's another stop in the backfield by South Park. So it's 3rd and goal, a loss of a yard, 3rd and goal from the 3. Well, obviously this is 4-down territory for the Billies. I don't think they'll be kicking a field goal here.
All right, we're back. So as we wait the next play, we have a few updates. Sweet Home is trailing West Seneca West 7-0 in the second quarter.
And Josh Neely, too.
And Josh.
And then we have Will East is up 20-0. Deuce Jemison has 3 receiving touchdowns for the Flames.
And Deuce Jemison, him and Dorian Faison Jr., those have really been the 1-2 punch on the outside for the Flames this season. And talking with Coach Turillo, Calvin Kulik is in at quarterback, and there really aren't any concerns right now at the moment for the Flames. Right now, as we mentioned, Sean Sansone is out for the season, but Kulik is stepping in, doing well. And Deuce Jemison, bringing Deuce the juice, we could say, with 3 touchdowns for the Flames. They're still looking really, really well.
All right, meanwhile, it looks like Clarence has the ball. 57 seconds to go in this one. Make that easier to see for us. 13-0 right now. North leads it, and it looks like it's 2nd and 10. Joe, you want to take the play call?
Sure, absolutely. It looks like Clarence in the shotgun, Dylan Reifenberg at quarterback, the senior leader. But before we get the snap, we have some movement on the field. Clarence, as we said, they've had a lot of successful firepower. And really, every time they've been inside the 30, as Coach Bergio told me a few weeks ago, they have that weapon. Zach Campana, a couple weeks ago when Clarence visited North Tonawanda, Campana, only his 2nd season as a kicker. Francis, it's sensational how Clarence has done really well. So Clarence really knocking on the door here all the way at the 17-yard line.
Meanwhile, South is stopped again. It's going to be 4th and goal for the Billies. First, we're going to head back to Clarence for second for, looks like 2nd down.
So Clarence on the move, going into the corner, the end zone. It is incomplete. So Reifenberg looks like he was a little bit pressured. So 51 seconds left in the first half. Clarence trying to get on the board for the first time tonight, trailing 13-0. So we'll see in just a moment how Clarence tries to set this up. A lot of players in the backfield, Brady Culhane especially, and running back for Clarence. So far this season having an outstanding senior campaign as well. 24 seniors out of 41 players for Clarence's roster, as I mentioned a moment ago. So Reifenberg's going to take the snap. He looks, still scrambling, now throwing on the run into the back of the end zone. It is incomplete. Looks like the receiver ran out of real estate in the back of the end zone. So 42 seconds left in the second quarter. I believe it's going to be 4th and goal coming up. So Zach Campana, I believe I just saw him come onto the field, number 27. He just kicked his leg for those watching at home. He's going to try to have a field goal attempt, something he's done very well at in the past 2 seasons with Clarence. So he's going to line up here for this field goal to try to get Clarence on the board.
A real quick update, 14-8 Iroquois leads. That came now at halftime. Chiefs up.
Very exciting to see what Iroquois is doing out there. Is Zach Campana stepping in now?
We're going to switch over real quick to Will South. Looks like they're about to go for it on 4th and goal. It looks like these two plays are going to happen. Step back to pass. Will South throws, and that is a touchdown. We'll go back to Clarence, where Campanella's kick is good.
Yeah.
You can't get much closer than that.
Absolutely. A big field goal for Clarence. 38 seconds left in the first half, so they now trail Will North 13-3. Zach Campana with the field goal. It looked like in Will South, I believe, Caden Overcamp is still a quarterback for the Billies, and he had that touchdown pass. I want to say we didn't get a good glimpse, but I believe it was to Danny Peoples, number 13. Hopefully we can get that confirmed. But, Francis, just for Will South, Overcamp and Peoples, had the pleasure of doing play-by-play for the first 2 games of their season back in September. And those two really were having that chemistry built early on. So a big touchdown for the Billies as well, and the field goal for Clarence to get on the board before the break.
Yeah, so good one for them. Trying to look at our Octobox, see who's closest to the red zone. We saw Will South, or it looked like West Seneca West was close, but actually, no, I think the other team had possession. So I'm trying to see where the most action is. Let's actually head to Game 6. That's the Orchard Park Lancaster game. We apologize. The scoreboard from Orchard Park is hard to see, but it appears that Orchard Park has the ball just outside their 20. Our last update from Tom Prince, it was 14-7 Lancaster in this one. That was about 10 minutes ago. But why don't we head to Game 2, where it looks like we have some action there. Why don't we jump in with Jake and Tim?
And a Jamestown first down.
Yeah, Carson Pamianco, the sophomore, the younger brother of the really good player that Jamestown had, Zach, all-Western New York player.
Okay.
He's going to be something special, only a sophomore.
And quickly into the no-huddle offense. Not wasting any time. Bain with the big hole to the left side, trucking one defender. Now brought down by a couple of Falcons defenders to try to get close to the first down marker. He is inside the 20.
It just seems like players just bounce off a bit. You know, we saw that last week against Frontier. He's a tough kid to bring down. You got to get it at his legs. If you try to go high on him, he's going to run you over, and we saw that a few times last week.
So the ball is at the 13-yard line. A pickup of 8 yards there by Carson Bain. 2nd down and 2. 10:30 left to go in the second quarter. Drake looking. Pass. Incomplete. Behind the intended receiver of number 15, Carson Penny-Bianco.
Yeah, good job by the Wheatfield defense. May have been tipped there.
For Jamestown.
So 3rd down. This is where Drake is pretty much at his best. He's going to go to the line of scrimmage. He's going to see which receiver he likes here. Watch Pemianko on a slant here towards the middle. He might like that here.
Well, he's got O'Brien in the backfield, and that's the man they give it to. Running it up the gut, staying on his feet. Looked like he ended up fumbling it too. I think Niagara Wheatfield picked it up.
40, Sean O'Brien.
Looked like the ball came out before he came down.
No.
And the refs are going to be discussing this.
Looks like
and Niagara
Wheatfield's
Wheatfield
ball.
recovered it. right at the 1
Wow,
yard
so
line.
look at that.
As O'Brien went
Niagara
down,
Wakefield
it
really
was
putting up.
stripped
I got to
and
be honest. I
recovered
wrote
by the
this off.
Falcons.
When I was looking at Class A1, here's like the game of the night is Will North Clarence determine second seed, or at least what that Clarence Jamestown game will be next week. And I was just thinking, yeah, Jamestown will be undefeated in one of that game, but Niagara Wakefield has other ideas.
Well, here's the thing. The head coach, Eric O'Brien, if you've been to a Niagara Wakefield basketball game for how many years now, you probably get a sense of just how intense this guy is. And you can just imagine in these types of games just how much even more intense he is. So, I mean, Niagara Wakefield, they have a lot of heart. He even noted a few weeks ago when I talked to him at Francis that they may not have the numbers that some of these other programs have, but they have the heart. And you're seeing the heart causing that fumble by Jamestown at the goal line. And Niagara Wakefield back on the offensive side of possession, a 1-point lead against Jamestown as Fletcher goes to the air and making the catch along the sideline. Niagara Wakefield moving the chains on the play. It looks like Sean Watson. Those two have a very big history together, Francis. Andrew Fletcher, Sean Watson, they played basketball together over at the NT Youth Center back in middle school over the years. They're now teammates on the hardwood and on the gridiron, as you could see in their last cut. So Wheatfield starting to move the chains, getting out of their own back door, we could say, getting to about their own 25-yard line. So Wheatfield leading 8-7.
All right, we're trying to keep an eye on some other games right now. Looks like Clarence and Will North has gone to the half, as has Will South and South Park gone to the half in that one. Trying to see if there's another game. Why don't we? Looks like Orchard Park is driving in this one, so we'll head there for a little bit. We know. We talked about earlier, Bennett had to forfeit all their first 6 games of the season. So that means this game you're seeing right here is to determine first seed in the Class AA playoffs. And right now we're told it's Lancaster's up 7-0. So Orchard Park right now looking for, I think it looks like 3rd down and long for them, are going to try to tie this game up. Let's see. It looks like there's a timeout. No huddle offense, you can see. Actually, we're going to go to Game 8, where it looks like the Flames are driving once again up 20 with under a minute to go.
Yeah, the Flames knocking on the door, but getting pressure in the backfield. Big sack for the Hutch Tech Engineers to make this now a 3rd and long opportunity for Williamsville East. Only about 43 seconds left before the halftime break. As we've mentioned, Sean Sanso is out for the rest of the season with a separated shoulder, so Calvin Kulik is under center for the majority of tonight's action. 3 touchdown passes to Deuce Jemison so far this evening for the Flames, so far so good for Williamsville East.
All right, it looks like we'll go ahead back to Orchard Park. It looks like there was a timeout. It's 4th and long after I think an incomplete pass on that last one. So we'll see. Let me ask this to you, Joe. If you're Orchard Park, do you punt the ball away? Obviously, we don't know the time. But do you, with the way your offense is cooking, do you try to, go for it here, or do you try to punt and pin Lancaster deep in their own end?
Well, ball is spot on the 38-yard line, and I would say in this type of situation, depending on what the score is, I believe it's 14-7 Lancaster still. You never know in these types of games, Francis, how many possessions you are going to get. So I guess if it's just depending on how the offense is feeling right now, I would say go for it, just depending on how the offense is doing. Usually in these situations, ball is spot on the 41. The offense will go for this just based on what I've seen, but it just depends on all the situation right now.
All right, real quick, you just saw West Seneca West just score their pending the extra point, going to take a 14-0 lead on Sweet Home. But, Joe, why don't you take this play for Orchard Park?
So Orchard Park going back to pass, pressure, O'Mell going down the sideline. The pass is incomplete, I believe, as Orchard Park was trying to thread the needle on the big 4th down play. So it looks like they will go. Still a few seconds left in the first half, I believe. Again, we don't know based on the scoreboard, but Lancaster with a 14-7 lead over Orchard Park.
All right, and you missed it, but West Seneca West did complete the extra point, so they are up now 14-0 over Sweet Home. We'll head back to our Octo box, and actually we're going to head over to Game 2, where it looks like the Jamestown Red Raiders are driving once again in this one. Why don't we turn it over to Jake and Tim?
It's so accurate, he just finds the right receiver every time.
The snap, the quick pass. Looked like that was caught at the 20 and around the 19. That was Colin Melendez who gets his first reception of the game. Gain of about 4.
Good tackle there by the Wheatfield cornerbacks there. Brings up 2nd and 6.
2nd and 6 for Jamestown at the Falcons 19.
And Tim, you mentioned it earlier in this game about how explosive the offense for Jamestown's been, not only throughout the past couple of weeks, but throughout the entire season. They've been averaging 39.3 points a game as Bain able to get tackled,
Carson
maybe
Bain.
gain about a yard or so. Tackled there by number 73, Tristan Fox, the sophomore.
Tristan Fox.
But yeah, 39.3 points per game. Surprisingly, though, that
1
makes
yard
him the
gain,
5th
3rd and
most
5
efficient
for
offense in
Jamestown
Class
at the
A.
Falcons 18.
All right, we're going to go over to Williamsville for Wilson and Frewsburg, as it looks like the Frewsburg Bears are inside the goal line. We're going to keep an eye on the Jamestown game as well. Actually, we're going to head back because Jamestown just scored.
I know. Jamestown, as we said, Jamestown, that firepower at offense with Trey Drake. He just set the record books all under his name now over at Jamestown. It's a great throw right over the middle of the end zone. So after Wheatfield forced that fumble on the 1 yard line, not sure what happened, but Jamestown had the ball right back a couple minutes later, and they're going for the extra point coming up in just a moment. But what a great response for Jamestown, the kick on the way, and it is good. So 14-8 Jamestown. And we're going to go back here, Francis, to Wilson taking on Frewsburg in Class D, tied at 7 at the moment. Just over 2 minutes, 2:17 exactly left in the second quarter, as it looks like Frewsburg is knocking on the door. And a couple yards on the play. So tied at 7, approaching the 2-minute warning. Again, in high school football, the clock does not stop at the 2-minute warning, but tied at 7 between Frewsburg and Wilson.
All right, we're going to head over to West Seneca West, where it looks like the Panthers have just responded, make it 14-6 pending the extra point. I couldn't tell who scored, if it was Theodore or it might have been one of his receivers, but I thought Theodore in the back of the end zone celebrating. So Panthers trying to stay in this one. They're coming off a couple tough losses. McKinley last week, that one went to overtime. And then before that, they lost to Hamburg. And before that, Will East, a team that's they've played in a lot of close games. They just haven't been able to capitalize on their opportunities, and it's cost them.
Yeah, you just said 3 consecutive losses for the Sweet Home Panthers. You have Jordan Theodore, the senior running back. I wrote a story about Jordan in last week's issue, just of how he has really been the senior leader. But even before he received the captaincy from Coach Zimmer last season as a junior, when he made his appearance as a sophomore, Sweet Home really relied on his leadership. He's been the leading tackler the past 3 seasons, 13 rushing touchdowns heading into this week's contest with West Seneca West. So Sweet Home, they're fighting for their playoff lives, as Coach Zimmer told me, as we have Frewsburg and Wilson back on the action down in Class D. A team is knocking on the door here. Wilson moving all the way down to Class D. I had the pleasure of being up on their campus back in 2019, their game against Portville in the postseason.
I think we were both
Fair.
there.
Yes, yes, you and I and Coach Rick Tom, we were all on the call back in our Mixler days, and Declan Ferry had the game-winning interception as a defensive lineman, which is even more exciting. But hopefully I'll be able to get a chance to go back up to Wilson. They have a beautiful complex up there, and now they're competing in Class D, as we said, tied at 7 with Frewsburg at the moment.
All right, looks like this is 4th and goal for the Bears in this one, tied 7-7 with about 2 minutes to go in the second quarter. Let's see what happens. And there's a timeout.
Yes, naturally, a timeout. Frewsburg and Wilson. Alex Colsty had a great couple stories for this one. You mentioned early on at week 1, Frewsburg is up to the challenge of returning to an 11-man action. The past couple of seasons they were down because of reduced numbers, but they're going back to 11-man this season in Class D. Randolph, CSP, Portville, Franklinville, Elkville, all in Class D. So for head coach Terry Gray, he knows it's going to be a tall task for Frewsburg this season. And then for Wilson, for head coach Bill Atlas, relying on Ben Warketter, the senior linebacker for the Lakemen, as it looks like Wilson is going to rely on that young man right now, as it looks like Frewsburg is knocking on the door. So 1:59 left in the first half, tied at 7 still, down in Wilson.
All right, I have some more from our Jack Cruiser, who is at that Will East Touch Tech game. We're going to try to do Will East McKinley net for our Thursday night game. Calvin Kulik, the backup for Sean Sansone, has stepped in. He is on fire. He's thrown all 3 touchdowns for the Flames. Actually, it's been him and Deuce Jemison have connected 3 times for those touchdowns. So, it looks like the new Willie's quarterback is, shall we say, on fire.
Yes, absolutely. Very well done, Francis. Yes, those two have really teamed up. Calvin Kulik even had a couple of receiving touchdowns in the Sweet Home win a few weeks ago, so he can play all over for Coach Trillo's offense, and 20-0 lead over Hutch Tech at the moment at the half. And yes, as you said, Will East, even without Sean Sansone under center, they seem to be doing very well so far.
All right, so it looks like that play no good for Frewsburg, so they turn the ball over on downs to Wilson with that game still tied. We'll head back to our Octo box, trying to see. It looks like we have a bunch of games at the half. Actually, this is probably a good time. Nick, why don't you bring our scoreboard over? We'll go over our scores as we are.
Yes, that's right. So Iroquois leading Westsec East early stage of the second half, 14-8. Jamestown and Niagara Wheatfield still down in the second quarter. Late in the second quarter, 14-8 Jamestown, 4:34 exactly on our screen. As Trey Drake going to the end zone. Count, no, just out of the hands of the Jamestown wide receiver. It looks like Carson Bianco dropping the catch. So 14-8 Jamestown, second quarter action. And we still have South Park leading Wolf South 12-7 at the half. West Seneca West leading over Sweet Home 14-6 as well. Wilson and Frewsburg, as we mentioned, tied at 7 second quarter. Lancaster Orchard Park probably just about ready to start the second half. Lancaster.
No, they still got the band out there.
Yes, the good old marching band. But that's awesome that a lot of high schools now have that marching band, whether it went away for a few years or just coming back. That's always great to see. Great game right now. Legends over the Quakers, 14-7. Willow North leading Clarence, 13-3, as we saw a few minutes ago. Zach Campana with the field goal for Clarence to get them on the board. And then our last score of the night that we're keeping an eye on, as we mentioned, Will East leads Hutch Tech 20-0 at the half.
If you are at a game by now, one of the games that we're not at, be sure to add us on Twitter at WN Athletics, at Francis Beck, as Trey Drake takes it himself in for the touchdown. So be sure to add us on Twitter with all those scoring updates. We want to keep track of as many games really as possible, including this one that Jamestown seems to be taking back control of.
Yes, Jamestown with a QB run from Trey Drake. He is heading to North Dakota State next fall. I had a chance to talk with head coach Tom Langsworthy for our first issue of the football magazine, and he said that North Dakota State is going to be getting a great kid who has a great sense of pride for his community, as the extra point is on the way and good. So
and he's the holder.
Yes, 21-8 Jamestown over Niagara Wheatfield, as you see head coach Tom Langsworthy on your screen, just closing in on that 100-win mark as well with Jamestown, and the bond that he and the quarterback Trey Drake have had, number 5. It's been really special to watch, especially if you're someone like myself who's had an outside view and has watched the Jamestown success in the postseason the past couple seasons. They're trying to get back to high mark this season, and I think they have a really good shot, considering it's Trey and a group of veteran wide receivers around him that has kept this engine going.
All right, and if you're looking for this game, you're not going to find it because it is actually going to be on tape delay tonight at 10. I'll have that. I'll be sitting with the stream here in the office just for you Jamestown and Wakefield fans. But we're giving you live look-ins at it. Why don't we head over to West Seneca West? 40 seconds to go on that one. West trying to add to their lead, but it looks like their quarterback just got sacked there.
Yes, Sweet Home Francis has really had that defensive pressure, even if it hasn't been on the scoreboard the past couple weeks. Obviously, last weekend against McKinley, the tough overtime loss, but the Sweet Home defense, like it has been for many years when the late John Fowler was coaching on the sidelines, it's still that staple for Sweet Home, especially with Jeremy Zimmer, who's now been with the program coaching. Starting as assistant, 25 years total with that program. So the clock is winding down at halftime. West Seneca West leading Sweet Home 14-6. That should be a doozy. We didn't mention earlier, Francis, but Bernard Freeman for West Seneca West. If you give him an open lane, look out, folks, as he is just going to run down the field, as Coach Vastola told me as well. So halftime out at West Seneca West at the moment.
Yeah, I think most of our games are at the half or just coming back, so I think this is probably a good point to take a break. Joe, why don't you toss us there?
All right, so we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. You're watching the Friday night final drive from headquarters West New York Athletics.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Do you insure a lot of businesses?
Yes, we do.
How about restaurants?
We got a bunch.
Do you cover property damage?
Yes, we do.
How about my equipment?
Covered.
How about sewer backup?
We got it.
What if my cook gets hurt?
They're covered.
Foodborne illnesses?
Covered.
What if my party tent goes down?
Covered under property damage.
And you say this is all under one policy?
One policy.
When do I pay?
Once a month.
Just one time?
Just one.
Is there anything you don't cover?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
31.
Tables. We don't do tables.
Gotta love Buffalo.
For all your insurance questions, call the Wolf at 835-WOLF.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA, with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
I love being home.
There's nothing better than owning the perfect house to come home to. You've earned it, and we'll make it happen. Our local real estate experts and in-house team of financial professionals make buying or selling your home simple. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.
I love being home.
Welcome back to the Friday Night Final Drive. I see Joe. You know what? We're going to need our producer, Nick, to fix our camera here. Nick, if you could take a look at our camera. It's on Joe right now, and probably better than it's on him than me. We'll fix that in a second. Actually, why don't we we'll bring, looks like it looks good now. We'll show you our Octo Box. We mentioned before the break we have a bunch of teams at the half, but the second half is starting to get underway, and it looks like we already have South Park deep in enemy territory. And let's see, that's a first and goal play. So why don't we turn it over to Stu and Paul?
Yeah.
But then we think, like with Willoughby, wow, what a heads-up play.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Just a great football play by him. For the South Side, of course, we're not liking it much. We're going to vote for Joe as the voice of reason here, but as we've said many times, the officials, they don't listen to the coach as much.
Corey Williams standing next to Willoughby on this side. And Willoughby throws it to the far side and into the end zone for the touchdown, but the ball came out. South says they haven't. The official on the far side signals touchdown. And let's see, I think South has the football. Are they calling for an injured player and the trainer out there?
There's a lot to sort out right now.
Yeah, somebody is down. Looks like a South player. I thought I saw the official on the far side.
All right, we're going to head back to the Octo Box. Actually, we're going to head over to Game 5. where it looks like the second half is running out in that one. So we'll head back to the Octobox. We have a couple updates for you that we got during the break.
Yeah, that's right. Lancaster at Orchard Park going down to the wire right now. So going back and forth as Dylan Evans had a great touchdown catch for Orchard Park. We mentioned he's rewritten the record book for Section 6 wide receivers. Dylan Evans with the touchdown through 3 defenders to get Orchard Park another score in this one. We're waiting for the update on what the actual score is at the moment between Lancaster and OP.
Well, yeah, it is 14-7 at the half. They're still at halftime.
Okay, so 14-7. Lancaster over Orchard Park, and Dylan Evans just, man, what else could you say about this kid? Having that last touchdown through 3 defenders, and he's just been outstanding. Him and the quarterback, Ben Coachella for Orchard Park, just doing a great job for Orchard Park this season.
Yeah, and we had Mike Pedanik write about it in our issue of Western New York Football Weekly, Western New York Football Magazine report, and the 2 kids have been friends since they were 5 years old. And you know what? That matters. Benko said, that matters for a receiver and a quarterback that, that they know each other so well. They can kind of, you talk about that unspoken language. They know what each other's doing, and I'm sure that has gone a long way in setting apart in, making those records happen.
And head coach Mike Sislick taking over as his first season with Orchard Park, and he's trying to do the same thing that his predecessors have done, getting that success out in Orchard Park, out the stadium, Section 6 titles, and so on. And yes, having that 1-2 punch, as you mentioned, that childhood bonds as you're 5 years old, that Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs kind of scenario, as well, like we've seen at Williamsville East this season, that goes a long way if you're trying to build a culture and bring a championship back home to your high school. No question about it.
Yeah, so certainly one to keep an eye on there. And, to think about it, that's with losing Keegan Macabelli, who was one of the best, who was the top leading receiver last year. And they still keep up this great passing attack. As we're going to head back out to Clarence, trying to see, there was just an interception. So now, Clarence, no, it looks like Williamsville North has the ball. Oh, yeah, interception. Williamsville North has the ball, and they have it at the Clarence 48-yard line. We mentioned this is a big game for these two teams. The winner of this game probably gets the 2 seed, and if you're Clarence and you win it, you still have a chance to get the 1 seed if you beat Jamestown next week. But we're going to head over to West Seneca East.
Yeah, Iroquois with that 14-8 lead, knocking on the door. Once again, just over 7 minutes left in the third quarter. Chiefs go to the ground game, and it looks like, unless he was short, waiting for the call, but Iroquois going with Trevor Berry on the carry.
And it looks like Williamsville North may have scored. We just saw a long run off to the right side, and let's see, they're going to mark him down at the 1-yard line. So Williamsville North, a chance to go up, 3 scores inside the 5. We'll stay here for a second. So handoff, and it looks like Mitch Kelly's going to try to go up the middle, but looks like he stopped.
Yes, Mitch Kelly, that's another player, Francis, that I've really admired watching this season. Talked with Coach Paul Palizé the past couple weeks, and just Mitch has improved so much, and you can see they're knocking on the door. Iroquois is tripped down on this latest play against West Seneca East, so that'll be interesting to see how Iroquois responds. But for Williamsville North, Francis, they have Mitch Kelly at quarterback. They've had a couple of tough games the past couple of weeks, a couple of recent losses, but that strong group of Mitch Kelly and Kendall Dother, who will have a story on him in the latest issue coming up for our football magazine. But Williamsville North just having that strong tradition on the defensive side, and even Dan Kelly, Mitch's dad, helping out the offense. It's been really special. But I think we have an injured player on the field out in Clarence right now. North leading 13-3.
Yeah, let's head back to our Octo box. It seems like, unfortunately, it seems like we still have an injured player over at Williamsville South too. So not a good sign. You see, that's been a few minutes now over there. I'll try to see if we can get an update on what exactly is going on. Trying to see. Looks like we have a timeout in the Jamestown-Williamsville North game. Why don't we head over, though, to Williamsville East? It looks like it's Will East with the ball in their own territory, but at least they're cooking for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it. Calvin Kulik with 3 touchdown passes in the first half. Deuce Jemison with 3 touchdown catches. Looks like 2nd and 5 at the East 40. It'll be a handoff this time. Flames going up the middle. Looks like Charles Smith, number 10, on the carry. Francis, you noted earlier on that Tommy Orsini was not in the backfield when we talked earlier, when we showed this game earlier. But Orsini was the number 1 guy in the backfield, and Coach Trillo said a couple of weeks ago, and even this past Monday when I talked with him about the injury to Sean Sansone, that they've had a couple of injuries the past week or so after being really pretty much practically fully healthy the first few weeks of the season, and they really enhanced their conditioning and nutrition as well in the off season. So it's going to be a 3rd and 1 play. Williamsville East going to the right side. The pass is incomplete. So 4th and 1 coming up on the East 40, and you wonder what the Flames do here on their first possession to start the second half.
All right, I'm going to head to Williamsville North. It looks like it's a second and goal from the 1, so let's see what North can do.
And Mitch Kelly still under center for the Spartans. Clarence defense trying to prevent a score. 8:45 left in the third quarter. A handoff along the left side. Waiting for the measurement is good. So touchdown, Williamsville North expanding their lead against Clarence in a very, very big game out in Class AA.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like I'm getting it from our guys at Will South. It sounds like the injury there is a very serious issue, so our thoughts and prayers are with whoever that player is. It appears it's a Will South player, so we'll keep an eye on that one. Let's see, trying to see what else is going on, what other games are moved along. Nick, do we have Nick, our producer here, is doing a great job. Nick, do we have any games that are moving along in the end zone? I'm trying to look at our 7. Okay, well, we'll stay here.
2-point pass play over the middle, and it is good based on the reaction from the Spartans. So 21-3, Williamsville North over Clarence.
Yeah, it looks like I think they're having some issues with the scoreboard at Clarence, because I see a tweet that says 21-3, which makes more sense than we missed a safety.
Right. But Williamsville North, I mean, they've just been having a solid night so far. They've had that routine. Having what else I really find interesting, Francis, is there are so many programs right now, or even if it was an assistant coach that was there for a very long time, 10, 15 years, 15 for Paul Palize, he takes over as the head coach, and there's still that continuity going on. I just find that fascinating that there are so many programs, and you can see on the field when you have someone familiar with how the program is already, it just really transfers over. And as we said, North leading Clarence 21-3 as Trey Drake is sacked by Niagara Wheatfield and running around like a madman. For Niagara Wheatfield, we got to give some love to, looks like number 55, Casey Robinson. Mr. Robinson's neighborhood right there for Niagara Wheatfield, Francis.
Wow, I've never seen a kid so fired up after a sack like that. But you know what? Trey Drake's pretty hard to bring down.
Yes. And that is a big one, a loss of 8. So 3rd and 11 coming up near the end of the first half.
I do want to go to game 3. It sounds like they're going to, Stu and Paul have an update.
I'm assuming here would make sense that they are telling them what has happened to their teammate and what they're doing about it. Now, if you look down to the left, I don't know if you can see down there, Paul, but there's a vehicle with some lights on behind that red one. And I can't, they're bringing a stretcher out here, unfortunately. You see the stretcher by the scoreboard. And so we unfortunately have no idea what this injury is, and we also hope that whoever the player is okay. Well, that's not maybe the right way to say it, but there has been an injury here of some kind of consequence, because a young man will be stretchered off the field, and hopefully, obviously, we want the best for him. Is there anything you can see that maybe?
So thoughts and prayers absolutely out in Williamsville. Tonight, Williamsville South, we have an injured player on the field. Big thanks to Stu and Paul on the call tonight and providing that update for us the best they can. But Jamestown Niagara, we feel we have a flag on the field. Jamestown and Niagara Wheatfield was 3rd and long after that sack a moment ago from Wheatfield's Casey Robinson on Jamestown's Trey Drake. It's now 3rd and long. The officials are discussing what the flag is.
I have a feeling since it was in the end zone, I wonder if that might be pass interference. Oh. The penalty was against Jamestown. I'm not familiar with that signal.
I am not as well. Sometimes in these situations you wish that hopefully in the future our officials can be mic'd up in these situations. But what a big penalty against Jamestown as it is against the Red Raiders, Francis. So this is going to pin them back to the 46-yard line. 21-8 Jamestown. 35 seconds left before the halftime break. We still haven't finished the first half out in Niagara Wheatfield. Great complex over at Niagara Wheatfield, by the way. Terry Harvey Field, just love the complex, love the people every time I get to see them out in Falcon Land. Had a chance, I know we have coming up Monday, our Section 6 girls soccer preview. Got a chance to meet Coach Blankenship and Tristan Davis, the star goalkeeper, and you'll hear more of that Monday night. But great facility out in Niagara Wheatfield. We got 4th and a country mile coming up for Jamestown. So forcing that punt, that is huge for Eric O'Brien and the Wheatfield defense. About 30 seconds left before the half. Down by 13. Very good outing once again by that Wheatfield defense.
All right, scoring update as we go over to West Seneca East. I'm told Allegheny, Limestone, and Southwestern are tied at 6. This Southwestern team, they were last week. They could have led their division in C South, but came up with an overtime loss to Fredonia. If you joined us last week in the Friday Night Final Drive, we were following that one very closely. But right now they're in a dogfight with Allegheny Limestone, and that with this one, I was looking at the standings and the tiebreakers. If they remain tied with Fredonia and Salamanca, they would have ended up as the 3rd seed in Class C South. But if they can't even win this game, they're risking that they don't even have they're not even in the discussions for the Class C playoffs.
Absolutely, and everything, as we mentioned, every single week going down to the wire. Each play, each possession, as I mentioned early on when we were talking about what should Orchard Park do against Lancaster late in that first half, that ball on the 41-yard line, 4th down play. Every play matters, especially down to the wire. It's this week, and then next week for most teams it's rivalry week. So this is really the last game of divisional matchups for many of these teams. So it really is interesting how this will go. As West Seneca East trailing against Iroquois right now, 20-8. The Trojans on the run. This is Mike Hayes getting the pass, but it is incomplete. Hayes was looking for his receiver. It looks like Cole Arnone. So 46 seconds left. Iroquois still leading by 12.
And we'll go over to Clarence really quick, where it looks like the Red Devils are driving once again, not trying to stay out of this one, down 21-3. Clarence and Reifenberg's driving. Joe, take it away.
So just over 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Ball spotted at about the 15-yard line. Reifenberg takes a snap on the run, going to the right corner of the end zone, looking to keep the pile moving. Clarence still knocking on the door. So, hey, we've seen, like we've said, 21-3, 28-3. There's really no safe lead in sports anymore, so it could be the same thing out there tonight out in Clarence.
All right, I want to jump into Game 3, where it looks like they have the golf cart out at Williamsville South. Let's see what Stu and Paul are saying right now.
Which is obviously what they should do. And hopefully Miles Graves is 100% okay.
All right, we're going to go back to Clarence, though.
Clarence knocking on the door, trying to cross the goal line. Looks like he is just short.
Looks like Reifenberg tried to pull a Superman Josh Allen.
Yeah. Dylan Reifenberg, hey, the kid has just done it all for Coach Paul Bergeau, and Coach spoke very highly of this young man. He's also a lacrosse player out in Clarence, so that multi-sport skills that we've seen a lot. But Clarence knocking on the door for the touchdown, looking like second and goal, just over 4 minutes left. As Clarence trying to get that pylon in, trying to get, looks like Reifenberg in again, and Clarence has scored. So 3:57 left in the third quarter. The special teams unit coming out now, but Clarence with that big score, make it 21-9.
All right, we do have an update.
Looks like South Park did score.
Willoughby, and the ball's on the ground, and the two-point conversion is no good.
South Park did score.
I think in the play, the player got injured, and that was the two-point conversion attempt for the Sparks on that one, as we'll head back to Clarence.
So Campana on the way. It is good, so make another field goal and an extra play make for Zach this season. 21-10, Clarence trails Williamsville North. 3:57 left in the third quarter. That's a good one to follow. And, of course, this is what we do on the Friday night final drive, as Francis has done the past couple of years, just getting better and better every week with the Octo Box. So we'll check back in with Clarence in a couple minutes as we have Iroquois and West Seneca East now, Francis. Third quarter is in the books. Iroquois leading 20-8, and man, that could be an interesting finish as well.
Yeah, look at that at West Seneca East right now inside the 10 at the fourth quarter coming up next. So we'll see what'll happen with that game. That one certainly Trojans are going to keep interesting as well. Why don't we see what's going on at Williamsville East? Or it looks like they're midway through the third quarter in that one.
Yeah, Williamsville East still out in front against Hutch Tech 20-0. Hutch Tech is my dad's alma mater, so hopefully he's supporting his team tonight, supporting the Engineers. But the Flames have been full steam ahead in this one, as we mentioned. Still 20-0. Kulik to Deuce Jemison 3 times for 3 touchdowns in that first half to have this big lead for the Flames.
All right, we're going to head back to Orchard Park. Last we saw was 14-7 Lancaster at half, so they're in the third quarter, and it looks like the Legends are inside the red zone once again, trying to add on to their lead, get that number 1 seed now in the in the Class AA. As we saw on our other screen, incomplete pass for Williamsville East. But we'll stick here with the Legends on what looks like second down.
And Max Stolt with the pass to the left side has the man going into end zone, but there are multiple flags on the field. This will likely be coming back for Lancaster, as Max Stolt is the quarterback for Lancaster this season. The Legends had a big win against Canisius High School a couple weeks ago, and our man Frank Wolf was at the game, and he said that Max Stolt, he might not have the statistics like his counterparts, but just knows how to lead the team very well. As Williamsville East keeping the chains moving there on 2nd and 10. Calvin Kulik with another pass looking to Deuce Jemison again. So Flames still at about the 25-yard line.
Yeah, Flames moving the ball. It looks like there was a holding call on Lancaster, so that'll push them back quite a bit. Meanwhile, we'll head back out to West Seneca East. Remember, the Trojans starting the fourth quarter. It looks like 3rd and goal at the 4-yard line. Why don't we jump in with Jim Craig and Colin Wood?
Defensive battle. Points would be hard to come by. Trojans threatening to make this a 1-score game. Once again, Rosado on the keeper. Tries to make his way to the goal line. Last-second push will get him around the 3. 3rd and goal coming up. And, Jim, this is obviously 4-down territory here. No question about kicking a field goal. That still makes it a 2-score game. You got to put 6 on the board here.
Well, they've been successful in this whole drive. They've been aided by a couple of costly penalties by Iroquois, but they're starting to move the ball. They've got creative on a couple of plays that have worked for them. So let's see what Coach Marino draws up now.
Ball at the 1.5-yard line as a timeout's taken by Coach Pitzonka and Iroquois. We're going to stay here and talk about just what we've seen so far here.
as well. So congratulations to the Warriors on that as well, taking on Eden North Collins tonight. So big win for Salamanca. As Orchard Park in Lancaster, Orchard Park going with a carry.
Let's see what.
So we're going to go back to Westsec East.
What Coach Marino draws up here.
Looks like 4th and goal coming up.
Mike Hayes has been excellent.
So this is 4th and 2 from the 2-yard line. Rosado on the counter. It's going to be close. I don't think he got there. Officials mark him short. Once again, the Iroquois defense proving they are worthy of the task of this run-heavy offense, showing no mercy and not afraid. They find themselves with the ball at their own 1-yard line, and just a quick score update. Wool North on top of Clarence, 28-10. A kick return was just taken back for a house call.
All right, interception for Lancaster, and they're going to take over again inside. It looks like the 35-yard line. We'll keep an eye on that, but first let's head back to West Seneca East.
That was a great.
Iroquois forcing that 4th down.
Pitch to Miller, who finds a lane to the outside, and he fumbles the ball. The ball is loose. Oh, and the officials mark him down.
I was just saying,
close.
yeah, I think he was down on that one.
Iroquois
So
avoids
turnover
disaster
on downs by the Iroquois defense.
Jet shovel pass
Turnover
to the outside,
by
ran right around the
Lancaster.
offensive tackle.
And
Yeah.
so now both of
Ninja
those
player
teams
down on the
are
field
got
for the
their
Trojans.
offenses back on the field. As we'll head back, why don't we bring back our Octobox, see what else is going on. We're going to go to Game 8. Where they're in late in the third quarter. It looks like Hutch Tech is finally driving.
Yes, that's right. Hutch Tech and knocking on the door with their first year coach Micah Harris leading the way for the Engineers. 2 minutes left in the third quarter as the Flames lead 20-0. Hutch Tech, one of many traditional programs in the city of Buffalo over the years, having a lot of success decades ago and trying to get that back with their new coach Micah Harris. And they're knocking on the door. A 2nd and 1 play coming up at about the 15-yard line. The clock continuing to wind down. Micah Harris said we just want to take things one game at a time, one play at a time, trying to build that culture back as their play has stopped. Looks like El Nasser of the Flames with the tackle on the D-line. So just under 90 seconds left, and looks like South Park and Wolf South going toe-to-toe down to the wire. Wolf South knocking on the door. Here's Stu.
Great throw and catch to Daniel Peoples. What a play.
Peoples can high point the ball so well.
And here comes South quickly lining up to the line of scrimmage. Quarterback sneak and Overcamp. They said he didn't get in. Looked to me like he did, but our angle is different. They lined up quickly, and now it'll be 2nd and goal from the 1-yard line. I was kept waiting for one of the officials to put their arms up, and the signal never came. They quickly lined up, took the snap. 2nd and goal on the 1 for the Billies, needing points here. They're going to go right up the middle again. Touchdown. So the Billies get a big score here. And then now it's 18-13. Caden Overcamp scores. They gave it. His number was called twice in a row. First time he got stopped. Second time there was no stopping him. And now the Billies will.
Caden Overcamp, just an outstanding season so far. Only a sophomore getting that last score. Now the 2-point play coming for the Billies. Looks a little short. So 18-13. South Park leads at Wolf South. 4:25 left in the third quarter. Meanwhile, it's Clarence taking out Williamsville North. Will North leading Clarence 28-10. We mentioned it was a kick return or fumble recovery to the house. 85 yards for the Spartans to expand their lead. 30 seconds left in the third quarter. It's a big matchup out in Clarence this evening. Clarence with trying to get that top spot. They're at Jamestown next Friday. Will North the same thing as well. So interesting scenario out. The clock winding down in the third quarter. Will North leading Clarence 28 10. Just a quick reminder, if for those watching the Friday night final drive, you can follow West York Athletics. We have our Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube pages as well, and our website, WMYathletics.com. We have a lot of postseason action for football, and as I mentioned earlier, girls soccer, a lot more coming up on the way. Jamestown with the man on the run, Trey Drake with a big scamper down the sideline. Jamestown leading Niagara Wheatfield still 21-8, and as we mentioned early on, you can catch the full broadcast. Jake Fladdock, Tim Chief on the call. Tape delay broadcast starting at 10 o'clock tonight. So a big game out at Niagara Wheatfield this evening.
Yeah, as you see that, I believe there might have been it looks like there's an injury in the Orchard Park Lancaster game, so we're keeping an eye on that. We saw Lancaster was driving, but that is stalled for the moment. We're going to head out to Wilson. Haven't been there a whole lot. It looks like that the Lakemen are going to have the ball, and they're just outside the 15-yard line. So we'll stay with them. The Lakemen tonight, we haven't talked about playoffs a lot, but for them, if they win tonight, they can clinch the number 5 seed in the Class D playoffs. Not a home game, but you at least get a somewhat favorable 4-5 matchup in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Head coach Bill Atlas really having that great culture that we've seen over the past years, and they were in, I believe, Class C a couple of years ago, and they moved down to Class D due to the Section 6 reclassifications, but it just seems that whoever the opponent is going to be, Wilson is going to come ready to play, and they are knocking on the door, tied at 7 late in the third quarter with Frewsburg.
You know, I asked him over the summer about their move to Class B, and he said some of his assistant coaches said, "Can we ask to stay in Class C just for the travel?" But he looked at the schedule and he's like, we really only have 3. There's only 2 or 3 times that they really have to make a Friday night trip out there. You know, he said they had won a away game on a Saturday, which he counted as a blessing for them because it's different when Saturday you don't have to worry about school, but Friday you have to worry about that, and they have to leave early from school, and you have to take a break halfway through. Right. So those logistics, and you know what? I was thinking about the slow start that Jamestown's off to. You wonder if those maybe that's part of it for Jamestown. That's a longer trip up to Niagara Wheatfield. That's versus coming up maybe to the South Towns or Buffalo, where that's an hour and a half. That's closer to 2 hours when you're going from Jamestown all the way to Niagara Wheatfield.
That bus ride fatigue, potentially.
Yeah, so I wonder if that factored in early on, but
some action out in Wilson.
Looks like Wilson player stopped at the 1-yard line there. But it's good that if you're Jamestown, you're learning this now, and you're not learning it until the playoffs when potentially because they might have to very well go in the second round to maybe a McKinley or a South Park.
Looks like Jamestown expanded their lead a moment ago. Going to try again. Penalty against Niagara Wheatfield. False start on the extra point try, but Jamestown out in front big 27-8. Meanwhile, back out in Wilson, looks like they are short again. Looks like under 90 seconds.
Okay, it looks like second down in that one. Tough to see from back here, but I think it's second down in that one. When we check on the 2-point conversion for Jamestown.
So handoff is up the middle and good for Sean O'Brien, one of the top playmakers for Jamestown the past couple seasons. He gets the call. It's 29-8 Jamestown. Early stages of the second half. As we go back to Wilson, Wilson trying again, and they get it this time. Wilson just keeps on knocking, and they take the lead with 1:25 left in the third quarter.
Yeah, just a good run up the middle. Wilson takes that good lead there, and they want to hold on to it. But we're going to head out to Williamsville East, where it looks like the Engineers have scored.
Yes, that's right. Hutch Tech getting on the scoreboard for the first time tonight. 11:24 left in the fourth quarter. So now down to a 2-score game. But back to Wilson. The extra point on the way for the Lakemen is up and good. So Wilson leads Frewsburg 14-7 late in the third.
Yeah, Wilson again trying to clinch a number 5 seed in the Class D playoffs. Another update from the Twitterverse. After 3 quarters, it's still Southwestern Allegheny Limestone tied at 6, thanks to our buddy Blaze O'Connor for telling us that one. Southwestern Trojans in a tough one there. I'm sure that's not where they expected to be. But we'll see. Looks like Hutch Tech is going for 2.
Hutch Tech rolling out for the 2-point pass play. Looks like he did not get in. He was just short. So Willys leads Hutch Tech 20-6 early in the fourth quarter. And Will South, Francis, just took the lead over South Park 19-18.
Yeah, you look at that. I forgot it was that close. What was it? Was it 19? Did I miss a touchdown in there? I feel like I missed a touchdown.
I think it was 12-7 potentially. Either way, Will South is in front against South Park, fighting their way back after an injury to their teammate early on. Maybe that inspiration to keep fighting. But the Billies and head coach Joe Okada, man, that man is Mr. Smooth. Just being around that guy, like I said, I did the play-by-play the first 2 weeks of their season, and he is really building that team in the right direction, taking over from his old coach, Craig Krasinski. Extra point is good, so Billy's lead 20-18. But what head coach Joe Okada is doing, Francis, I think it's going to be really special over the next few seasons with a young guy like Caden Overcamp at quarterback. As Iroquois in West Seneca East, going back, just over 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Iroquois with a big return inside the West Seneca East 45. 6:22 left to go in the fourth quarter. Chiefs trying to hold on to this victory tonight.
Yeah, trying to hold on to the victory and going to be able to clinch the Class B1 division. B, there's only 2 divisions, so it works out. I think when they get to the stadium, if it's 2 number 1 seeds, I always forget how they determine that. But if you're Iroquois, you're taking care of business. You're guaranteed at least 1 home playoff game, and if you win that, you get 2, and maybe they make another trip to the stadium. Remember, they were there the past couple years. They lost to Maritime, I believe, in the last 3 years, at least the last 2 years. One of those being at that was actually during the COVID year, so it was actually at Johnny B. Wiley in that game. But Iroquois trying to get back. There's no Maritime, so they appear to be the favorite right now to win it all in Class B. As you can see, their offense is moving the ball pretty long there. We do have an update. Williamsville North has punted away, so Clarence has the ball. Down 28-10, about 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. We'll check in on that game. Trying to see if there's any place else that's close to the red zone. I want to look at Jamestown. It looks like Niagara Wheatfield, their offense is moving.
Yeah, Niagara Wheatfield with Xander Fletcher under center, having a great campaign. As I mentioned, I wrote the story about him in our first couple issues as a quick pitch for the Falcons, trying to keep the ball moving. But for Niagara Wheatfield, it's really interesting, Francis, to see how Xander Fletcher has really progressed, taken flight, we could say, with the Falcons. He's been a very solid point guard around Western New York basketball the past couple years, and he really hasn't played quarterback up until last fall when he took over. That was the first time he consistently played quarterback since he was on the JV team in middle school. He got limited time on the varsity team for practically 3 years before he took over last season. And as you can tell, he had a 259-yard, 4-touchdown performance against Hutch Tech back in September, and he's on the QB keeper right now. He's trying to keep the chains going for his Falcons. Just about 7.5 minutes left as Iroquois is able to expand on their lead. A big run for Nate McGoldrick, number 5, getting in the outside action. A little pass over the middle, so Iroquois expand their lead as well.
Yeah, Nate McGoldrick, their big tight end. He's kind of part of that 3-headed monster with Trevor Berry, the freshman, Justice Kleitz, and then, of course, McGoldrick as well. He's the senior. Berry's only a junior, by the way. Tom and I have kind of joked. I kind of joked with him last week. We said, he's still the same jersey on the back, the same number. Are we sure? Are we still sure it's not Trey in there making the plays? He just kind of got a new first name, but I think that really is Justice in there. But you would never know by the way he's playing right now.
Ball is loose on a 2-point try. Trojans returning it briefly, but Iroquois still out in front, 26-8, just over 5 minutes left in regulation. Back to Niagara Wheatfield we go, back to Sanborn, New York. Niagara Wheatfield inside the red zone as Fletcher fires it to the corner, into the dirt, staying in bounds. Oh, man, what a touchdown for Niagara Wheatfield. What a play. Sean Watson, again, the two team it up like PB&J.
Man, what an unbelievable catch. He goes over, hopefully we have they're going to have the replay on here, but he jumps over the defender, kind of grabs it over him, and he kind of have his hands turned, which makes it that much harder. But kudos to Niagara Wheatfield for staying in this game. Some teams are like, well, Jamestown finally got control. We're going to go lay down. They're not laying down, and they're keeping this a 2-score game. And not only that, I think Jamestown, it would behoove them not to make sure they get the 20 points in this game, because that could be the difference between whether in the final playoffs they get a 1 seed or even a 3 seed.
It was intercepted by Jamestown, Eric Reese, number 7. And yes, you said that point differential as we get down to the crunch. I'm not sure many people know this in high school football. It's not necessarily based on the standings. Yes, depending on how many wins you get, but it's really that point differential as well, especially in these close standings like we're seeing in some of these races here. It really comes down to the point differential down the stretch, especially.
Well, what's going to happen? What's likely to happen is you're going to have South Park. Although I know we just saw they're right now having trouble with Will South, but let's say South Park wins out, McKinley wins out. Which, if you're out at the McKinley game, be sure to send us an update there. From that, and Jamestown went out, they would be, they would win their divisions, and then it would come down to not point differential, but point differential average, because A1 has one fewer team than A2 and A3. So you go point differential divided by your number of league games. And the math I did last week, as you're seeing a long run there by Jamestown, would have, I believe, with South Park get the 1st seed, because their point differential, what it was last week, McKinley as the 2nd and Jamestown as the 3rd. But again, there's lots to happen right now. We'll go over to Will South, where right now the Sparks are down, so that could change everything. Right now, Maritime doesn't play till tomorrow. They're actually going to play Kenmore East at ECC South. They're right now, they have 1 loss. Sparks with no losses. If the Sparks are able to come back and win this one, and Maritime wins tomorrow, that would set up South Park Maritime winner of that one. It actually would battle for the A3 crown. But obviously, Will South has something today. And let's not forget last night, completely under the radar, we had Grand Island beat Starpoint.
That's right.
Knockout.
2 in a row for Grand Island.
2 in a row for Grand Island. And which potentially creates the situation, which when I did once I saw that and I redid all my playoff stuff, or at least did A3, it actually gives, Amherst potentially one of the best shots to get in. Although South Park losing throws everything into chaos.
Right.
Amherst gets in if they're in some sort of 3-way tie or 2-way tie with Will South and Starpoint, by the fact that not only did Amherst beat Starpoint, but they only lost to Will South by 4 points. So they have a very good point differential. And even if, let's say, Grand Island and it's a 4-way tie with those teams in Grand Island, so Will South, Starpoint, Amherst, Grand Island, Amherst would still win that one. But obviously South Park losing kind of throws everything, potentially losing, I should say, throws a little bit of everything into chaos. But, yeah, certainly A3 is going to be a mess, especially if this score holds. We'll have to keep an eye on this one.
And just to clarify for our viewers at home, what is it calculated based on? It's based on the point difference average? Is that just to...
So let's break this down. So if we're talking within an individual division, it comes down to record, head-to-head, and then if you have multiple teams tied with the same record, and for example, known as being all the other ones, it comes to point differential. but it's point differential just within those when those teams face each other. So it's not the point differential you'll see on the standings page. It'll be between those actual games that they played each other. So it counts as so example, 3-way tie between Star Point Amherst and Will South. It's just the games Will South Star Point, Will South Amherst, Amherst Star Point. So it's that point differential when it comes down to that kind of tie.
I see.
The point differential average comes into effect when we go cross-divisional, because in A1 and A's the only, luckily C, they're all the same amount of teams, so you don't have to worry about that. Point differential averages come into effect is when you have your top 3 from each division, you're trying to put them together for your top 8, your top 9. To break up those tiebreakers of teams with the same record, you would do that. As we see a touchdown here from Clarence, actually there is a slight caveat to that, is because there's an uneven number of teams, they're not going to do straight up records. They're going to do win percentage. So when you're comparing an A, if you compare an A1 team to an A2 and A3, it's going to be win percentage and then point differential average, and it'll be the point differential you'll see on the Section 6 football standings. And that'll be divided by the number of games, league games that they had. So that's just a little way of trying to break down with you. You know, Jack Cruiser joked last week. He's like, he should get you a board.
Right.
Give me a board.
A cheat sheet or something. Yes.
He was like, you can kind of be like the Steve Kornacki of Section 6. I needed really a super board there and to pull that out, to pull off all the map, and we're not quite there yet.
Definitely, that's no. I appreciate you breaking it down. I did not know that, but definitely, I never knew that. That's really how it was all calculated. As Clarence is calculating their way back into this one with Will North, just over 5 minutes left, 28-16. A late run. Campana with the kick on the way is good. So 28-17, Will North over Clarence. Make sure that you're excited and ready to go for the end of that one out in Clarence. Those games are really not for the faint of heart, as we've seen tonight, as West Seneca East still going down to the wire in their contest tonight, taking on Sweet Home. The Trojans taking on the Panthers late in this one.
Indians taking on the Panthers.
Indians taking on the Panthers 14-6. Early stages of the fourth quarter.
I was just informed Sweet Home had a QB change, so Rocco Penapinto is out, and number 3, sorry to pull on your roster, Joe, is in.
Yeah, it looks like Stephen Butler is in for Sweet Home. So we get another run close to the goal line, trying to make sure. I think he was just short.
So it looks like that was Theodore. We have to remind you these cameras are unmanned. These are unmanned cameras, so bear with them. They don't quite get the shot we love to get with those. As we're keeping an eye on other games, I'm trying to see. Looks like is game 8. So to game 8, where it looks like Will East is just outside the red zone. But we'll keep an eye on this West Seneca West Sweet Home game. This is a non-league affair, but Will East is definitely keep an eye on this West Seneca West game. They want the Indians to lose this one in order to, and let me make this very clear, just to get in the discussion to get into the playoffs at this point. In this one.
Definitely, we got two big matchups. Williamsville East, we've mentioned so far. Calvin Kulik has taken over at quarterback. Sean Sanso was injured in last week's game against West Seneca West in the third quarter, as the Flames are starting to move the ball with Reed Siaka getting the carry, getting a few yards. Flames just past the 20-yard line, so looking at 3rd and goal coming up for the Flames, as the Flames trying to keep this one going. Under 6 minutes left in this contest. Calvin Kulik to Deuce Jemison with 3 first-half touchdowns through the air to build this Flames lead for head coach Mike Turillo. And the Flames still trying to keep this one going.
All right, I do have an update. Why don't we head over to Orchard Park? You can see they're set up for the kickoff. I just found out that Orchard Park just scored, and that game is now tied at 14-14 with 27 seconds left to go.
And you said it, Francis, at the top of our Friday night final drive. This could be the game of the night, and you just said tied at 14. Two programs that they circle this game each year that they face each other. Max Stolt, Ben Gosella, the two quarterbacks for this one, Lancaster and OP respectively. So tied at 14, winding down in the third quarter. Definitely could be a tight one out in Orchard Park tonight.
All right, so why don't we head back, look at our Octobox. We're keeping an eye. Let's head over to Game 3, where it looks like it's touchdown for South Park. Here's Stu and Paul.
Take the lead back.
Looks like South Park had that last touchdown.
A.J. Watts. And there's a flag, but it looks like
could be coming back.
Maybe after the play.
South Park with a big one from A.J. Watts if it stands.
South. Coach Licata is pointing, saying that should come back.
We'll head out to Sanborn now. Jamestown trying to knock on the door again. The handoff, and the halfback is short at about the 2-yard line as Carson Bain on the carry for Jamestown. Jamestown, as we mentioned, their head coach Tom Langworthy trying to have that success once again. They fell just short in the state finals last fall as the QB keeper is good for Trey Drake. He's trying to bring back his team back to another big run to Central New York and Syracuse next month. So Jamestown now leading extra point try pending 35-14. Still some sorting, still trying to sort what happened out in Will South. Francis, as A.J. Watts had that touchdown, but this might be coming back.
Although I'm seeing now the ball is over here. Now, when Nick showed us alerted me to this, I saw the player from South Park was running the wrong ways. It looked like it was a longer touchdown. I don't know. I mean, when you saw that moving, were they inside the goal line, Nick?
It looked like he was just running into the end zone.
Yeah, it looked like he was just running into the end zone. But now they're moving it back. I don't get it. Yeah. All right. We'll head back to our Octobox. That's where the clarity is. I don't know if that made any sense there.
So Will South still leading South Park 2018 at the moment.
We'll keep an eye on that one. Why don't we check out with Game 4? Didn't we have Sweet Home is driving this one? They have it, or no, it looks like West Seneca West came with a stop. So big stop there. Indians have the ball, 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, up one score. And game West Seneca West needs to win. And I believe they would do very well. They would go to 4-2 and be in a very good spot to win, to get into the playoffs. We need to hear though what's going on with the McKinley game, though. So if you're out there at the McKinley game, please add us on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, an update: Southwestern has scored. They cash in on an interception. They now lead 16-6 with 8:32 left in the third quarter. And it looks like we have a final.
Yes, the first final for tonight on our Friday night final drive. Iroquois defeats West Seneca East 32-8. So a big win for the Chiefs out in Class B1 against the Trojans. A big win for Justice Kleitz and company. So now it appears that the touchdown was good for A.J. Watts.
Or maybe they scored and we just didn't notice.
So,
okay, so it looks like they did count it.
Yeah, so A.J. Watts had the touchdown catch, then a 2-point play. Big thanks to our producer, Nick, for clarifying all of this. Sparks leading Will South 26-20. Just over 10 minutes left in regulation. Stu Boyer, Paul Catrona on the call out in Williamsville South tonight, and we will keep you posted. Williamsville East, meanwhile, against Hutch Tech. Flames getting another big play. With 3:33 left, this could pretty much clinch this one tonight. Still some time left, but the Flames now leading extra point attempt on the way. 27-6 over Hutchek. Let's wait for the extra point time. I don't really want to jinx the kickers tonight. And it is botched, so it is still 26-6 Flames over Hutchek. That's why I didn't want to jump the gun.
Well, at least you didn't
Yes.
At least you didn't botch the kicker. Technically, you botched the snapper and the holder.
Well,
So-
I apologize to the snapper and holder at Williamsville East tonight, but the Flames looking like they're going to get another win tonight.
And it looks like Sweet Home just got the ball. It looks like it might have been a fumble or a turnover on downs. Right now, Sweet Home has the ball again inside the 5, looking to take the lead, looking to tie things up.
Yeah, trailing by 8, but balled up by that tight Indians defense of West Seneca West. And head coach Mike Vistol, who said a couple weeks ago I spoke with him, it's going to be, to paraphrase, all hands on deck moving forward. Really trying to grow. Only about, I believe, 8 or 9 seniors on this West team. They're learning every single day. They're going to be getting the majority of their team back next fall as well. But this is huge. Second down and goal up to 7 coming up for Sweet Home.
All right, real quick, 21-7 right now. Wilson leads with the third quarter wrapping up against Frewsburg. Lakeman trying to get the 5 seed in Class D.
Sweet Home going to the ground game. So third and goal coming up. Yes, you said Wilson trying to do their part out in Class D tonight, taking on Frewsburg and head coach Bill Atlas, as we talked about. Really just a very strong traditional program tonight, and really for many years with Wilson, no matter if they're competing in Class C or Class D, as we have a shot going down the field for Frewsburg. I don't believe we have the catch, though. Looks like incomplete. We're going to send it back to Williamsville South. South Park and Williamsville South going down to the wire. Here is Stu Boyer and Paul Catrona on the call.
Javari Bald. So
Bald's been a handful today.
A 6-yard loss, 2nd and 16 from the 26.
But with these two quarterbacks, I think, nothing seems to phase either of them. So, South is still going to do what they're going to do. They're going to put the ball in the air. They're putting it over Camp's hand regardless. We're going to see what develops right here.
Well, and good news for Section 6 fans, both players will be back next year. There's a handoff and a run and a pretty good first down gain.
It never fails.
I knew. On that run, 3rd down and 10.
26-20 in this one. We'll go back and forth between this one and OP Lancaster for you as best as we can. 3rd and 10 coming up. Cade Overcamp on the run on the right. The pass is short. Not sure if it was an interception. You couldn't tell, but it's going to be another 4th down play coming up for Wolf South. We're going to jump back now to Orchard Park in Lancaster. Looks like the Legends are knocking on the door inside the OP 20-yard line here. Tied at 14 per our last update. Big one down in Orchard Park tonight. Friday night action in Western New York. Max Stolt with the halfback pass. Finding the man on the outside, getting wrapped up, gets a couple of yards. Now we'll go back to West Seneca West in Sweet Home. Sweet Home is on the run. Not sure if the halfback went in.
And that's a 4th down play.
So it looks like Sweet Home is short. I believe it probably Joy Theodore in the carry, but short. So turnover on downs for Sweet Home. 6:43 left. Still a 14-6 West lead. Lancaster at OP. Max Stolt on the run, gets pressure. Gets the pass off, but it is incomplete. Pressure coming from the Quakers defensive line. And, still tied at 14, going down to the wire.
All right, we're going to head back to Williamsville South, where it looks like from the body language on the field, it was the South Park defense is able to come up with a stop on 4th down. So the Sparks have the ball and the lead, 8:29 to go in the 4th quarter.
This is a big game, as we mentioned, for both teams. But we go back. Lancaster setting up, trying to expand their lead. Kick is on the way. and good, according to the back official. So Lancaster leads 17-14 with 9:19 left out at Orchard Park. Big lead, big kick from the Legends kicker, Cannon Converse. 9:19 left to play. That's a big play, Francis.
Yeah, big play there for the Legends to take that lead. An update from Twitter: Fredonia is leading Chautauqua Lake Westfield Brockton 28-0 at the end of the third quarter. Let's see, trying to see what else is going on. Why don't we check in with Game 7, 28-17, and it looks like North has the ball. They're going to try to add on the lead. Why don't we head there to Clarence?
Yeah, so Will North trying to get out of Clarence with this victory. Clarence needs a big stop. Mitch Kelly under center for Williamsville North inside the 10. Last minute of play in the fourth quarter. As we mentioned, the Spartans trying to wind down this clock in the last minute. Scrambling out. Kelly on the run. And Mitch Kelly is in for the QB keeper to expand the Spartans' lead. And this one is likely over. 47 seconds. Likely a win for Williamsville North tonight. Still some time left, though, but 34-17 Spartans over Clarence.
And if I'm Will North, this is going to sound crazy. I'm going to go for the onside kick. Because right now, let's see, if they go for it and make it, you're at 19 points. Who's to say you can't get the ball back and score again? Get your full 20.
Exactly. And what a big win for Paul Palazzo and Williamsville North. Again, still some time left, but likely a victory for the Spartans. Still some time, as I said, but Williamsville North and trying to keep this going down to the wire in the season. The extra point attempt is good, 35-17. As we go back out to Williamsville East, the Flames have wrapped this one up with Hutch Tech. Just under 30 seconds left in this one. So the Flames, a big win. Dorian facing at the last 4-yard scamper for the Flames. So a big win for Williamsville East heading into the final week of the regular season. Next week, good win for Coach Trillo and crew.
All right, why don't we head back out to Williamsville South, go across town, where it looks like the Sparks are now 3rd and 18 after that incomplete pass from Noah Willoughby. We had the Sparks on last week on the Friday night final drive. They hit an upset loss to Pioneer. It was a non-league game, but it was definitely an upset, and they lost pretty handily. And it looks like Hutch Tech. It looks like they score on that second and goal or on the QB sneak. Yeah, it looks like they scored on that QB sneak. But yeah, South Park lost a game. Really, they shouldn't have lost. It was a non-league game. Good for them. You're wondering, if they're not completely over that. You think your team like South Park after that, you would, say, you need to come back. We need to come back and keep full focus this next week, as they just complete a big pass play over there. But it looks like they're having trouble with Will South. But real quick before I let you jump back in, Will South just lost their player, pretty serious injury, so it's always interesting to see how a team responds. And it seems like Will South is responding pretty positively to that.
Yes, definitely. It looked like it was Mile Graves, I believe, who had that scary injury. Best of luck to him. Thoughts and prayers out to Miles and his family. But yes, you said it, as I kind of mentioned, is how do you respond when you get punched in the mouth like that and lose a big player? And right now they're going toe to toe with South Park, who is making their way towards the goal line. And as I said, the results for Williamsville South, it might not be where they traditionally are, what the fans want this season. But with Joe Okada leading the program, I'm telling you, Francis, I think Will South is in very good hands for the future. Having a guy, Mr. Will South himself, the UB quarterback as well, I think they're going in the right direction. I'm very pleased with where it's going. I'm excited to see where they go as well.
Well, and they're a young team as well. So it's not like he's doing this with a bunch of seniors this year. This is a very young team. You mentioned Overcamp is a sophomore, a quarterback he can really build with. He's going to be the first quarterback that Joe Licata is going to be able to coach at Will South, and you wonder what kind of legacy, especially at that position, Joe can build. All right, why don't we head back to Williamsville North? It looks like Clarence has the ball. Oh, they're making a big play. It looks like a big, long play out to the 25. So Clarence not going away in this one. As win and point, we mentioned before, big major playoff stake, major seeding stakes in Class A1 on the line as we'll head back to South.
Clarence going in the air, and it looks like it was intercepted by Will North based on what's going on the field, so that should do it. The pass looked like a little short from Reifenberg, and Will North is going to come out of Clarence with a 35-17 win, a big win for the Spartans, as we talked about a moment ago.
All right, and it looks like Jamestown just scored once again. It's now 43-20. Jamestown, they're not even in the fourth quarter yet, but I know you. Nick's been here all season long with me. This is pretty usual for a Jamestown game. They're usually behind everybody else because they score so much, and their opponents score a lot. I say one of their weaknesses is probably their defense, which is the reason why these games go so long. Their defense probably lets a few more points than they should, so the Jamestown offense has to respond, so that slows the game down. Last week, I think the Jamestown game actually ended early, which was kind of funny there in this one.
Yeah, definitely. Jamestown looking well tonight against the Falcons. They have a big game coming up next weekend against Clarence to close the regular season. But you could just tell that Jamestown, they have that poise, and it's because of that senior leadership. Trey Drake, especially Carson Panbianco, the host of Merry Men on the outside as well. Jamestown looking very good in the driver's seat.
Look at Mario right there.
Yes, there's our man, Mario Hall.
You've kind of seen those close-up shots so far, and you can see him now. He's getting off the field.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Will South real quick, as it looks like a first and goal play stop. But I'll have to say, that guy's fearless out there.
I just got to say, Mario, he's been a great guy. When I first met him for the All-Star game at Buff State back in August, and he is just all over the place, getting those tight angles that you don't really see in other spots. So shout out to Mario, getting in the action. He just loves being in the action. It's good to see him back in the fold with us tonight.
And again, you'll be able to see all those great camera angles coming up 10 o'clock, so stay up late. Watch that Jamestown-Niagara Wheatfield game in full. Obviously, a lot of scores, so that should be a fun game to put you to sleep, because you won't be able to fall asleep after this night of action.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Jake and Tim on the call out in Sanborn. They got a really good game going on. Great crowd, I imagine, out in Sanborn as well. And yes, you can flip on one of these games and it'll help you fall asleep at night. That's for sure.
All right. 7 went final, so Williamsville North defeated Clarence 35-17. I think this is a good point, Joe. Probably we can't go back to our Octobox because some of our games have finished. But why don't I go back to our main cam real quick? Why don't we go over our scores, because we have a couple final. We started at the top.
Yeah, so we got Iroquois with that big win against West Seneca East, 26-8. Jamestown over Niagara Wheatfield, as you just saw, big 43-20. South Park leading in the fourth quarter against Will South, as we've mentioned, 26-20. We're going to go briefly back to the action. Lancaster OP. Lancaster trying to pile on some more scoring, but it's just short at the goal line. So Lancaster looking just short. Right now, as we mentioned, Lancaster leading OP 17-14 after that late field goal. So Lancaster going up the middle again, denied once again. We're going to go back to South Park, Will South. The Sparks have just expanded their lead once more, so they now lead 32-20. We're going to toss it to Stu.
They have a stop on this 2-point play. You can only control what you can control. So this is.
We're going to go back just a moment, but Lancaster with a late score against OP. Man, what a big run. So we're looking at 23-14 at the moment for Lancaster over OP after that late field goal from Cannon Converse. So fourth quarter action, Lancaster out in front against Orchard Park, going for the extra point try.
All right, and it looks like South Park missed the 2-point conversion, so it'll be 32-20 over South Park, a 2-score game. But the Sparks definitely want to get more. They want to at least get another touchdown and 2-point conversion in this one. In that one, I just want to bring back our Octobox for our man Nick here, keeping track of all these games. If a bunch are moving very fast. Joe, I got to be honest, I missed that play for OP. Did we see what happened? Did they call a timeout?
I believe Lancaster had the score and then had the extra point kick for Lancaster Orchard Park. So it should be at least 24-14 Lancaster because they had the touchdown run. And we were going through the scores very quickly. Francis Wilson in the fourth quarter leading Frewsburg 21-7. And Will East with that final over Hutch Tech 26-13. So we're winding down with our games here on the Friday night final drive. But again,
we have 4 finals or 3.
I believe half the board is gone.
3. Okay. For some reason I thought you're game 8. Okay, yeah, that's right. 3 finals. I don't know why I added an extra final in there.
So 5 games to go.
5 games still going live. We don't want to bring you back the OctoBox because there might be some confusing videos on there, like you're seeing Tonawanda in the Game 8 box. But we have it up for our man Nick, so he's keeping track of all the action going on at once, and he's going to send us right now to game number 4. West Seneca West still up 14-6, but I believe Sweet Home has the ball with 1:32 to go, so they have one final chance. They're really not. Sweet Home really isn't in the playoff picture anymore, but at least they can maybe end their losing streak and play a little bit of spoiler to the Indians.
Yes, absolutely. Sweet Home, still fighting till the very end, still fighting for their lives as head coach. To paraphrase what head coach Jeremy Zimmer told me, but right down, knocking on the door, 14-6, West Seneca West. And we do have an update. It is 23-14 Lancaster, 6:38 to go. It was basically a fumble recovery by Orchard Park. So Lancaster leading 23-14 as we have some action down the field for West Seneca West in Sweet Home. They're going inside the red zone. The man's still on his feet.
Oh, that was an interception.
Big play. Big interception indeed with 1:14 left to play out in West Seneca.
All right, we're going to head down to the southern tier. The Trojans just hit a 45-yard field goal, and they take a 19-6 lead with a minute and a half left to play in that game over. They're facing Allegheny Limestone, so Southwestern trying to stay in the running in Class C South. Let's see what else is going on in over around, let's see, 1 minute to go. Why don't we head out to Wilson for a little bit? Looks like about a minute to go in this one. The Lakemen are up 21-7, looking to clinch that number 5 seed in Class D. I do have another update. Fredonia is up over Chautauqua Lake 35-0. That's with less than 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, as the Wilson Lakemen have it, and looks like they're just going to try to run out the clock. Point differential, I don't think, is going to factor in for them. That's only one division in Class D, and all they needed was the win tonight. So they're just going to be looking to burn some clock, and they get ready for their big crosstown rival, which next week is rivalry week, as you very well know, as both of us very well know. So Wilson is going to take on Newfane in their big rivalry game, so that's a non-league. So this is it for their league games. But rivalry week is next week. That'll be a big one as we see West Seneca West. They kneel down. They're going to get ready for their rivalry game against West Seneca East, who just lost a close one to Iroquois.
Yes, don't you just love rivalry week, Francis? We have those games you mentioned. You have TNT game, East-West out in Kenmore. Just a lot of big games that last week of the regular season. And you said West Seneca West having that momentum, taking on their rival, the Trojans, next week. It should be huge. As we're winding down with the Trojans and the Panthers of Frewsburg winding down the last minute or so.
Actually, that might be a little long. I might have read that scoreboard. Yeah, that's a 5. So that must have been a 7 I saw. So, yeah, so we still plenty of time to go in that Wilson game. So they want to add on to their score and keep it out of it. But the kneel down has happened. You can see that clock is running out for West Seneca East. So the Indians should take that, should get themselves into the playoffs with that win. They're going to end 4-2 in league play. I don't want to pull up the standings here, but we'll pull them up later in the show. but they're going to go to 4-2. Kenmore West tomorrow. They have North Tonawanda with a win. They go to 4-2. So if McKinley wins tonight, McKinley clinches the first seed. West with a win tomorrow can clinch the second seed, and West Seneca West should have the 3 seed in this division. Now the only thing would be if we find out McKinley loses to Hamburg. Then we have a potentially situation if Williamsville East defeats McKinley next week on Thursday Night Football. We could have 4 teams, or actually, we could have 4 teams tied with 4-2, and we'd have a whole mess out there. But if McKinley wins, they get the first seed, and it kind of knocks out Williamsville East, who we saw beat Hutch Tech. So it looks like A2 is wrapping up. If you're at that McKinley game, by the way, McKinley-Hamburg, if you're at that game, you're watching us, please send us that score on Twitter, at WN Athletics, at Francis Beck, at Joe Kraus.
18.
Please add us. That's a very important game, so we got to know what's going on in that one. I want to bring back our Octobox for our man Nick, so we can keep an eye on the other games. We still have a bunch of games going on right now.
Looks like Lancaster Orchard Park going down to the wire still. Lancaster leading OP 23-14 from our last update as the Legends scored off a Orchard Park fumble to build that lead. So 23-14 Lancaster. We're going to go back to Will South, a tight one. And here's we're going to go out, I believe, to Stu and Paul.
Park player smartly just lean forward, drop down.
Yeah, it looks like we missed let's see, do we miss a score here? Yeah, it looks like Will South just scored.
And he will hand it off. And
so 32-27 South Park.
And the Billies were trying to get him to go out of bounds.
Just over 2 minutes left in regulation.
Yes, Sparks do have the ball. So we're going to go to game 5.
Kind of did a little spinorama. And
so Wilson, they're inside the tent trying to see what looks like it might be 4th down.
Just over 3 minutes left as well. Pass on the right corner of the end zone, and it is incomplete.
Yeah, I think the receiver tripped on that one. I think he saw a nice, good play action fake. I thought the running back had it. I don't know about you. And then the pass, was in the perfect spot. Just the receiver looked like he tripped. And that's going to be a turnover on down. So Frewsburg still in this one with about 3 minutes to go in that one. Trying to see what games are in the red zone right now. It looks like timeout in Niagara Wakefield. We have Will South. There's a timeout. But it looks like Lancaster has the ball, so why don't we head to Orchard Park?
Yeah, Lancaster and Orchard Park still going down to the wire. Lancaster back with possession. There's the snap, looking over on the run. And it looks like someone in Orchard Park is signaling it's a turnover. It is a turnover. So Orchard Park having another life in this one, trailing 23-14 late in the 4th quarter. That's a big stop from the Quakers.
Yeah, I apologize to Joe there. I was trying to play around to see how many people were watching. But, yeah, it looks like Orchard Park's going to get the ball, and, they're down, 2 scores right now. So it looks like their offense has a lot of work to do right now.
So West Seneca West secured the win tonight against Sweet Home. Still some action out in Wilson, 21-7. Wilson leading, just over 3 minutes left in the 4th quarter. South Park leading by Will South by 5, 32-27. As we're looking again at Orchard Park, forcing a turnover on downs against Lancaster late in the 4th quarter. We'll get hopefully an update on how much time is left. But Lancaster in the driver's seat, 23-14 at the moment. We mentioned these two teams going back and forth. Eric Rupp, the head coach for Lancaster, having so much success with the Legends program over the past few years. And for Orchard Park, Mike Zizlik in his first season trying to lead the Quakers back to the stadium. Now known as Highmark Stadium, many people still call it the Ralph in these neck of the woods for the first time since 2015. As OP goes to the air looking for the signal. That's a big play.
I think that was intercepted.
Wow, another defensive play this time by the Lancaster defense. Turnovers galore in this one down at Orchard Park. Man, what a throw. Just a little short from Ben Cosella, and Lancaster forces another turnover.
Yeah, so big play there, as you can see, and this Lancaster team is they're special. Let me turn off Stu and Paul for now. They're just especially. Remember, let's think about this Lancaster the past few weeks. They faced Canisius at home, biggest high school game in probably 5-10 years.
Yes.
Then they have Bennett, who they hold to 2 scores, and now they travel to Orchard Park. What other team in Western New York has that tough a 3-week schedule?
I mean, I think that's the toughest one, right? I mean, you go from
in possibly years.
Yes, from one powerhouse to another, just going toe-to-toe and staying competitive. I mean, but Lancaster, this program has been this very consistent for a very long time, playing at this high rate for many years, and this is what they build towards in the offseason, those offseason workouts and just preparing for these types of moments down the stretch. But you said 3 games in that stretch. Canisius, Bennett last week, tonight against Orchard Park. That's a heck of a slate if you're any high school team. But obviously Lancaster has answered the bell every single time.
All right, we're going to head over to we're going to actually pull in the audio from Stu and Paul, as it looks like South Park is closing out the 35-27 victory.
I'm just surprised that they go shotgun to
do
it.
I was just going to say that. And usually you would think in a victory formation the quarterback is under center, and now it's 3rd down.
I'm not trying to overguess Coach Delaney. He knows what he's doing, but you generally see it out of the snap right direct to the quarterback, but they did what they had to do. They got the 2 snaps in, and they pretty much burned out the clock.
Well, that will do it. The final score, South Park 32, Williamsville South 27. For Dana Gunther, our producer, and Tanner Saunders, our photographer, we want to thank them, and want to thank Paul Catrona for his outstanding commentary as usual. Once again, the final score, South Park beats Williamsville South 32-27. I'm Stu Boyer. Have a good night, everybody.
And good night to you as well, Mr. Stu Boyer. Thank you to you and Paul on the call tonight. South Park getting the win over Will South tonight, so big win for the Sparks. We only have 3 games left here, Francis. We have Jamestown, Niagara, Wheatfield, Frewsburg, Wilson, Lancaster, Orchard Park. As you can see, Jamestown still well out in front against Niagara Wheatfield, 43-26. Joe Krause, Francis back with you on the Friday night final drive. Thank you again, Francis, for having me this week, and thanks again to everybody for watching at home.
Yeah, it's been a fun week so far. I'm sure a lot of back and forth, and we had to break Joe in a little bit to get to the speed of this one. But I think we've gotten our pace down, under control here, as we only have about 3 games left live. Why don't we head back to Lancaster Orchard Park? It looks like there's a break there. Trying to see what's going on. Why don't we bring up Wilson and Frewsburg, where it looks like it's the Wilson knocking on the door once again.
Yeah, just over 2 minutes left in the 4th quarter. Lakeman go to the ground game. Looks like he is in for the touchdown. So Wilson with another big-time score with 2:04 left in regulation. Lakeman now leading, pending the extra point, 27-7. So, a three score game now down in Wilson. Or should I say north in Wilson, New York.
Yeah, up in Wilson.
Yes.
Up in Wilson, right by the lake. They can't go sailing. They wouldn't be smart to go sailing after this game.
Right.
Maybe tomorrow.
Right.
They can do victory sail.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Celebrate the big win. The extra point attempt for Wilson is no good. So 27-7 Wilson at the moment. 2:04 left to play. Again, we only have 3 games left. Lancaster, Orchard Park going down to the wire in the 4th quarter. And Jamestown, Niagara Wheatfield, another score for Jamestown, and make it another one for Sean O'Brien. Jamestown expanding their lead now, 49-26, under 7 minutes left to play. Jamestown just continuing to roll here tonight.
Yeah, and let me just try to do some math here I believe this is, 23 points? So they're over the 20-point threshold, but there's still a lot of time. So now it's time for this defense for Jamestown to sit up. They've been a little bit of Achilles heel for them this season. So this Jamestown defense really needs to step up, make some stops so they don't have to rely on their offense to keep scoring, putting up 50, 60 points just to keep that. Because if you're Jamestown at this point, you're not playing we're up lead. You're playing a 20-point game. You want to win your games by 20 because you want to give yourself the best chance you can to try to get a number 1 seed, because the difference between a 1 seed and a 3 seed is a second home playoff game.
Definitely. It should definitely be interesting how things sort out this week and even next week. I know that some of the teams, as we said, it's not a in-league game next week. It's the traditional rivalry week, but still plenty of action as we go back to the action. Lancaster Orchard Park, and it looks like Lancaster just had a big burst into the end zone. Lancaster expanding their lead against Orchard Park, so it should be 29-14 now. Late in the fourth quarter. Man, what a big run just across our screen.
Yeah, I think it was probably Micah Harry, knowing this Lancaster team, returning Connolly Cup finalist, is having a fantastic year for the Legends as he's trying to lead his team back to the stadium, maybe back to a sectional title. Remember, they got knocked off last year at the stadium by Bennett, a very good Bennett team, but it ended their 5-year run as sectional champions. If they would have won last year, they would have been tied with the Sweet Home Panther John Fowler team for 6 Section 6 titles in a row. But, of course, they come up just short in that one. As it looks like we'll head back to Frewsburg really quick, Wilson, where it looks like Frewsburg has the ball, trying to make something happen with under 2 minutes to go in that one.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier on, for head coach Terry Gray and this Frewsburg Bears squad, it's their first time back as an 11-man football team, in about 7 years. So it's really just trying to get back on that proverbial bike of being back with an 11-man team. As our man Alex Colsey did the report early on in the season, but it looks like Sweet Home under 2 minutes. Wilson with a big win, a sweet win at home, I was trying to say, but Wilson up by 20 should be a big victory. As we're going to go back now, we have a flag on the field.
Yeah, I got to be honest, the way it looked out of the corner of my eye, that could be on the sideline, because I think that was during a timeout, and I believe the official was looking right at the sideline when he threw the flag, or just before he did. So this is going to be very interesting here. Hopefully, let me text Tom Prince, see if he can kind of sort out what's going on in this one.
Imagine it's down late in the fourth quarter as well. As you imagine, in these types of games, as we've said, Orchard Park and Lancaster, two powerhouse programs over the years. They know each other very well in Class AA. You imagine that at some point the tempers are just, it's just going to go off between these two teams. So it could possibly be that type of flag. But as I was saying all night, that this is the game of the night, as we said, as it came into this one, into our broadcast, and these two teams know each other very well. Just historically, when you hear the team Orchard Park, Lancaster's the first to come to mind, pretty much.
We kind of had this discussion with Jack and I, as far as like top rivalries in Western New York, who's biggest rival, and we're going to go game 5. It looks like we just had maybe that was a bad punt. So we'll go back to it for a second. Anyways, what we were talking about was that, it's weird, some team, you have your big rivalries, but sometimes, like, your number one rival, they think of you as their number 2 or 3. So, like, we were talking about Jamestown, they kind of think of their big rival as Orchard Park, but Orchard Park kind of thinks their big rival is Jamestown. So it's kind of interesting when you go back and forth, and obviously you factor in, like, the traditional rivalries like NT and North Tonawanda, but it's interesting to think about, like, when you mention rivalries, not all rivalries are equals to both teams.
Yes, definitely. Some rivalries in this area have existed for over 100 years. North Tonawanda, probably about 60 years now for Ken East, Ken West, if I'm doing the math off my head. Wilson, Newfane, especially Lancaster, Depew, over 100 years, and some of those that just started years and years ago based on how the teams were classified, like Orchard Park, Lancaster. As we have under a minute left, Wilson still on top over Frewsburg, 27-7. Looking like a big win for the Lakemen over the Bears tonight. As we're going to go back to Orchard Park and Lancaster. Not sure how much time is left in this contest between the Legends and the Quakers, but Lancaster last check leading 29-14 as Orchard Park moving the chains a little bit. The big pass from Ben Coachella.
All right, I do have an update. So that flag was on the sideline on that one. It probably was a sideline warning, especially since I'm seeing 1st and 10, and usually they give a sideline warning first. So it seems like things are getting a little heated on the sidelines for Orchard Park down in this one.
And I imagine, getting down to the wire in terms of how much time is left as well. As Ben Coachella goes over the middle, the pass is incomplete, just missing the reach of the camera as well. So an incomplete pass coming up.
All right, why don't we head out to Niagara Wakefield? It looks like the Falcons are going to punt down 50-26, about 4 minutes to go in this one. We're waiting for an update. What kind of time is left in an Orchard Park game? Our Tom Prince is there, of course. His son is one of the top linemen for the Quakers, and he's had some interesting games. He's gone up against Rashad Perry. And then last week, he actually threw up on the field.
Yes.
Stayed in the game.
Yes, and I think there was an injury as well during that sequence as well.
There was an injury. Yeah, he tripped to the hospital.
And then he still went to the homecoming dance. That's a tough guy. We love Luke, and obviously Tom is doing well. 1:40 left in the contest. Lancaster leading Orchard Park 30-14. Under 2 minutes left. 30-14 Lancaster over Orchard Park. It looks like we just finished in Wilson, so congratulations to the Wilson Lakemen, a 27-7 win over the Frewsburg Bears, a big win for head coach Bill Atlas and company up north in Wilson for the Lakemen heading into their last week of the season. So it looks like we're down now to just 2 games tonight. Lancaster OP, this is on your screen right now. Trying to get a big return. Could have been a punt.
I think it was a punt there, yeah. So it looks like under 40 to go. Lancaster is going to have a chance to close this one out. I'm surprised you punt there if you're Orchard Park, though. If that was about 130, 140 to go, 4th down, I don't know. I'm not sure why they punted there. I don't know if I agree with that call there.
I don't know. I mean, that could be another column for you about the situation.
I can't see the scoreboard,
right.
So I don't want to be too critical here
Right.
because we don't know the exact time. We just got an update a minute ago from Tom Prince. I think Tom is a little bit ahead usually of these feeds that are coming in. Because Lancaster's going to line up for kneel down. So I don't know.
Big win for Lancaster.
Yeah, Lancaster's going to win that one.
Yeah, so Lancaster 30-14 final over Orchard Park. Just a big win for head coach Eric Rupp, able to turn the page after last week's game against Bennett, a tough loss for the Legends team, and keeping that train moving down the tracks if you are the Legends. Heading into this final week of the season, the big rival Depew coming up next weekend. So that means that our last game tonight, right now, Jamestown, Niagara, Wakefield, big 57-26. Is we're going to look at the standings now of how this all sort of is situated after all the games today.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the standings so Joe doesn't have to squint on my laptop here. But we'll start in AA. So Lancaster is going to get that number 1 seed in Class AA. We mentioned at the beginning, the big news of the day, Bennett has to forfeit their first 6 games. They had an ineligible player. Reportedly, it was a clerical error. There was an ineligible player. So they will lose that one. We'll go down to Class. Let me pull this up on your screen. Still getting used to the new technology here in this one. Let me get this up. Here we go. We'll go down to Class A1. Jamestown's right now walking to win that game. We don't want to show you the end of it because we're going to have it on tape delay at 10 o'clock. So just about 15 minutes, or once that game's over, really, we'll be able to get that going live on West York Athletics. But you can see Williamsville North gets the win. So they're going to have one. They're going to be 3-1, tied with Clarence. They're both going to be Clarence, both going to be 3-1. Williamsville North has the head-to-head. So right now, if Jamestown beats Clarence next week, it will be Jamestown 1, Will North 2, Clarence 3. If Clarence beats Jamestown next week, you have a 3-way tie, and really you're going to factor in point differential in that one. And in fact, Williamsville North may have an advantage in that scenario just because they only lost to Jamestown by a single point, so they have a big advantage, and they took care of business at Clarence. We'll head to A2. We saw we're still waiting on that McKinley score. If you know that, please tweet at us at WNY Athletics in that one. So we're still waiting that. If McKinley wins tonight, it's going to actually be Kenmore West plays tomorrow. If they win, it would be McKinley 1, Kenmore West 2. They would go to 4-2. They have head-to-head over West Seneca West, and then Williamsville East. No matter what they do, because they can only go to 4-2, they have losses to both Kenmore West and West Seneca West. They would actually drop down to 4th in this division. A3, we saw South Park. They come up with the win over Williamsville South. So Williamsville South is out of here. But it's going to set up Maritime wins tomorrow against Ken East. South Park Maritime will decide that A3 division, and it appears Amherst is most likely to win tiebreakers. They would get the 3rd seed in that division.
Definitely. I mean, just a lot to go down the stretch with Class A1 or with Class A, with 3 divisions now instead of the traditional 2. And I talked with a couple of the coaches in the offseason, Francis, and I just said, what are your thoughts on how Section 6 reclassified everything? Class A going to 3 divisions, especially, and they said it still doesn't really matter who they are facing. But I think it's like 20 teams now in Class A overall. You're trying to compete for 6 or 7 spots for the sectional?
So 8 spots.
Okay.
And if you're an A1, so you're talking about Clarence could end up as the 3rd seed. They're at a disadvantage against anybody in A2 and A3 who finishes in 3rd because it's gonna come down to win percentage, and they have one less game. Now, if you look at this, what's going to happen if Amherst is already done? They're 3-3. If they move into the 3rd spot, that's going to be big for Clarence and for that one because they would be Amherst is a 500 win percentage, and Clarence would have a higher win percentage. So that Star Point Grand Island game is going to so it turns out the Vikings are really going to help the Clarence Red Devils. So Red Devils fans, if you're watching, if you have a friend from Grand Island, I don't know, buy him a sandwich or something, or big thank you. But it looks like they were able to get you into the playoffs.
It's just going to be very competitive the last week of who's going to get in, for Class A to represent all 3. But Class B, it looks like it's going to be potentially the same way. Iroquois is right up top with that win tonight. And it's just interesting how Class B is going to go as well.
Yeah, so this one is a little bit straightforward. I haven't seen a Pioneer score. If you have it, please tweet at us. But let's assume for a second they win. We know Iroquois won, so they clinch the 1st seed. If Pioneer won, they get the 2nd seed. West Seneca West would end up in 3rd, and then I think it would come down to Burgard has a game against Lakeshore that would decide that 4th seed. We saw Burgard beat Lewiston Porter a couple weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. That was actually a thrilling, overtime game. And then of course, if Pioneer loses tonight and they lose next week, they would go to 3rd place in this division. West Seneca East would be able to get the number 2 seed. Their league is done. Their league schedule's done because they have West Seneca West next week. So we go to B2. We haven't seen a ton of scores from there. We know Albion defeated defeated Easter Holland last night. We're still waiting on a Maryville score. This is going to come down to whether Maryville can win out. Cheektowaga, they won last night. If let's say Maryville loses tonight and Cheektowaga beats Maryville, Cheektowaga could end up as high as the 2 seed. But if they don't win next week against Maryville, they're probably out of the playoffs.
Yeah, this is going to be a big-time matchup, Maryville and Cheektowaga. Maryville with that firepower all over the field, the offensive end. And then for Cheektowaga, Warburton in the backfield. He's really been one of the top running backs. Definitely.
By yardage, for sure. He's the top running back.
Definitely. Warburton, just a solid player overall. So that's definitely a big game to circle next week.
All right, C North is pretty set. Last night, Medina won. So they are 5-1 on the season. I believe Cleve Hill has already clinched. They're at the second place. Or no, they have let me look at this. I believe they've already clinched let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they've already clinched the second seed in this. Akron, I believe, and then Akron and Roy Hart are going to battle it out for the 3 seed. C Central, Lackawanna's already clinched the 1st seed. This is pretty much at Lackawanna, or Depew has the 2nd, and it's going to come down to, I believe, week 7. Akron, Alden, and Eden North Collins determine the 3rd seed in that one. And this one we kind of spoke on it. This is the big one last week. If all 3 of these teams end up tied here, it'll be Salamanca will actually get 1st place, Fredonia in 2nd, Southwestern in 3rd because of point differential. Salamanca only lost by 5 points to Southwestern, and then they beat Fredonia, I believe, about 7 or 10 points. So they get the 1st seed, and then Fredonia, you saw, beat Southwestern in that one. So that is going to be C South. And then D, there's still a lot to go in this. We know Wilson, with their win, they clinched the 5 seed, but a lot of this is going to come down to Portville and Randolph, I believe, face off against each other next week to ultimately decide who gets the Class D number 1 seed.
And that's what it's all about, right? The last week of the high school regular season, having those big types of matchups to determine how things are going to go in the postseason. That's what it's all about. That's what you sign up for, Francis, really, when you go through those workouts in June, July, August. No.
It goes back to March. Really.
Yes, even March. But basically, when you put that helmet on for the first time in the first workouts, that's what it's about, competing for that last week of the regular season and going into the postseason, trying to get a postseason seeding as well. It's definitely, this week was really exciting to watch. I think next week could be even more intense considering there's so much up for grabs still.
All right, so we believe the Jamestown game did go final. We don't have quite a final score on that one, but that one is you'll be able to watch it full in replay coming up in about 8 minutes right here on Western New York Athletics. So stay tuned for that one as you head to bed. We do have a final score, 57-26. Jamestown that's the final score from that one. It looks like Falcons were able to score a last-minute touchdown in that one, but it's still Jamestown wins by a hefty margin in that one. Again, that whole game will be coming up in a few minutes. But, Joe, since all of our games are final, why don't we go through our 8 games, our final scores, and then call it a night?
Yeah, definitely. So Iroquois with the big win over West Seneca East tonight, 26-8. We just mentioned Jamestown over Niagara Wheatfield, 57-26. We'll have that game for you in just a moment on our network. Then South Park defeating Williamsville South down to the wire out in Billy Land, 35-27. West Seneca West defeats Sweet Home 14-6. Wilson with the big win over Frewsbury, 27-7 near the lake. Lancaster with a 30-14 win over Orchard Park tonight. A big win for the Legends in that one down in OP. Williamsville North with a 35-17 win over Clarence. And then to wrap things up, Williamsville East with Calvin Kulik under center at quarterback. 3 first-half touchdowns to Deuce Jefferson, 26-13 final over Hutch Tech. Another solid week from the Octobox here on the Friday night final drive.
Yeah, another score right into Twitter final from our friend Greg Larson from WDOE. Fredonia defeats Chautauqua Lake Westfield Brockton 35-8. So Fredonia doing what they need to do in C-South. We just talked about that a few minutes ago, and how that all is probably going to play out. Fredonia does what they need to do after their overtime win over Southwestern, a game where they had to really, or Southwestern made this huge fourth quarter comeback. They were down 3 scores, took the game to overtime, but Fredonia is able to pull out the win in OT in that one. But again, Fredonia wins this one pretty handily, 35-8 over Chautauqua Lake Westfield Brockton. So, Joe, before we end up, any final thoughts on the night? Any surprises? This go, what you kind of expected?
I thought that, really impressed with how Iroquois did well tonight. Jamestown, obviously you'll be able to watch at home, but Jamestown has that star power with Trey Drake at quarterback, really leading that engine for Coach Langsworthy. South Park, Wolf South, a really hard-fought battle. South Park with their coach Tim Delaney, one of the bright young minds in Section 6 over the years, getting that big win. The Sparks now a playoff berth, clinching for the 8th time in 10 years. That's really impressive. Yes. Yeah. That's really impressive at a high school level for Tim Delaney and what he's done with South Park 8 times in the last 10 years. Wilson and Coach Atlas, like I said, I had the pleasure of calling their game at Portville back in 2019. You were there. Coach Tom was there as well. And just seeing what Wilson is all about, they're legit. Excited to see how they're going to do in Class D for the postseason. Lancaster Orchard Park, like we said it was our game of the night. And Lancaster able to turn the page after last week against Bennett to get that big win. Orchard Park is still a very lethal team, no question about it, and I think they'll be able to bounce back. Will North, Mitch Kelly, and that senior offense, Kendall Donovan, we're going to have a story on him in the next issue, like I said earlier. What they were able to do tonight against Clarence, another very solid program with the Red Devils. Very big win for Will North. And then Will East, even it was the next man up mentality, right? Calvin Kula coming in once Sean Sansone got injured last week, and our thoughts and prayers are with Sean tonight. A very solid player, and Calvin kept it going with Deuce Jemison, the 3 touchdowns. So overall, the Octobox did its job. I think we did a very good job picking which games we wanted to select, and just overall, this is my first time hosting with you the Friday night final drive. Hopefully we do it some more in the future, and this is a really great program, and hopefully all the fans in Section 6 really appreciate what you do personally with this show and everything, because you don't get this in other areas, that's for sure. So
we were trying to say we don't think this exists anywhere, any other high school coverage. I mean, this is literally what they do for the NFL, yes. And I know they had it a little for college a few years ago, but nothing to really like this for high school. So remember, tomorrow on W Athletics, 2 o'clock, it's going to be St. Joe's and St. Francis, a big Catholic school battle. We'll have Stu Boyer, Tom Prince. I'll be on the sideline for that one. We're going to have Mario Hall once again doing our sideline camera. I forget who's going to be our main camera. But either way, it's going to be a great game.
Is it Russ? Russ Patillo.
I think Russ is going to be our main camera. We'll have Mario down the sideline. So if you like those shots you saw from the Jamestown game, you're going to see them in a few moments here in W Athletics. And you can watch them again live as St. Francis takes on St. Joe's. But I think that's going to wrap us up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And definitely, hopefully everybody out there has as much fun as we did here tonight at headquarters.
All right, so for Joe Kraus, I'm Francis Beck. Thank you for tuning in to the Friday night final drive.
Life can be full of surprises, but not always the good kind. That's why we're committed to providing safe, quick, and cost-effective care, and we keep it simple. Just walk in. We're here for you. Learn more today.
There's nothing better than owning the perfect house to come home to. You've earned it, and we'll make it happen. Our local real estate experts and in-house team of financial professionals make buying or selling your home simple. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.